Hello, friend. Thank you for tuning in. This is the third episode, and finally, I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. You know, this was the first episode where it generally felt really easy. I had an amazing guest, my good friend, Anna Massek, also known as Isanna. She is a music artist. She just started her psychology degree again. And yeah, I really enjoyed this podcast. It's a bit longer than the other ones. It's nearly 3 hours. But I recommend you watch it all, obviously. It's a bit of a big commitment. But yeah, we dive into psychology, social media, obviously music. We talk about the paranormal in St. Andrews, some like creepy stories she had. She then read me my tarot cards. And then she asked me some questions, and that was really fun. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. I've actually also on my YouTube now. I'm trying to do these like clips in it. I'm trying to learn from the pros like Lex Fridman, Joe Rogan. They do the clips in it. So on YouTube, I'm gonna upload just like shorter videos from the main one. Hopefully, that brings some more people to the show. So you could watch those as well if you don't want to watch the whole thing. They'll be on my YouTube. But yeah, KOKO PODS number 3. Hope you enjoy it. Welcome.
Thank you.
To the third edition of KOKO PODS.
Excellent.
You're the first sort of, I guess I'm separating, like obviously I started with my best friend, then I'm going to Alex, and now you're Alex's sister.
I am.
You are Anna Massek.
Mm-hmm.
Anna Sophie Massek?
Anna Sophie Massek is my full, like I have basically, my first name is Anna Sophie.
Okay. So I'll get, so it's like, what's it called? The double?
It's like, yeah, it's like a double name. I don't know if there's like a specific word for it. It's just a double name.
A double name.
It's like a princess vibes.
Anna Sophie Massek.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start off with, you've had a couple changes in your life recently. You started your university degree.
Yeah.
Psychology. You're back into it.
Mm-hmm.
How long? So what is it? You got 1 year left?
Yeah, I've got kind of like about a year and a half, I guess.
That's fine, it's fine. Just see how it comes and I'll just point it at you.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I think like a year and a half because obviously I started my degree like a while ago, like a couple of years ago, and I took a break because I felt like I needed to be focusing on music. Like I had this kind of weird moment at a Georgia Smith concert where I was like, oh shit, like I had a weird existential crisis and just realized I needed to be on a different path. And it wasn't obviously that I didn't like what I was studying. I love psychology a lot. But I was like, yeah, I need to do something else, have some new kind of like impulses and meet some new people. And so I stopped my degree, and that was a big decision for me. Like it was a tough decision. But now recently I've been thinking that like psychology and music isn't necessarily like mutually exclusive. And I think it would be a good idea to just kind of revisit that part of my life and see if I can kind of bring the two together. So yeah, I'm doing that, music and psychology, and kind of seeing where that takes me.
How do you think the two elements? How do you think the two elements sort of combine, psychology and music? How do you think you will combine them?
I think like I'm kind of interested in like more than just like the psychology of music and kind of like the neuroscience behind music. I'm kind of fascinated by altered states in general. So like I guess when you talk about like when you think about how creative people work, like a lot of times you hear about like flow state.
Okay.
Like getting in the flow state of things, and it's just this weird kind of altered state of consciousness where like everything just happens and you don't necessarily, like some people describe it almost like another force takes control. I'm really fascinated by that, and I'm kind of just fascinated by how people like how creatives think in general, or like why some people feel they're creative and why some people think they're not creative, and like just kind of what parts of the brain are like responsible for our creativity basically. And can you become creative if you're not creative, and like just kind of that whole side of things. So I guess more than just music, like just creativity in general. And then obviously also I just find it really interesting how our brain like processes music, and kind of the brain processes, the cognitive processes kind of involved with that.
Okay. What is creativity?
What is creativity?
Because you know how you're saying like some people feel like they're not creative and some people think they are creative. I guess it's like a two-part question. So let's start like how would you describe creativity at its base? And then do you think that the statement is true that some people are creative and some are not, or do you think everyone's creative and people just haven't explored that part of themselves yet? So let's start with creativity. What's creativity?
Yeah, I think everyone is capable of being creative. Like I think it's a bullshit assumption that like some people are creative and some people are not creative. I think as humans, like especially as someone, I would consider myself quite spiritual, and I think like being in touch with my spirituality allows me to see that we literally all create in some way, shape, or form. Like some people obviously don't subscribe to this kind of thinking, but I think that we create everything. We create our realities, we create our identities. Everything that we see is kind of just a manifestation of the way that we think and our thought processes, really. And so, I mean, obviously there's people who kind of consciously create, like they sit down and they make a piece of art, or they sit down and make some music, and that I would consider that like conscious creativity. Like they're aware that they're doing it. They sit down with the goal in mind to make something that isn't already there. But I think there's a lot of people who create unconsciously, and they're not aware of it. And I think it also has a lot to do with like the way that you were raised and the people that you associate with, because some people as children were obviously, you know, told that they were creative. And for that reason, that was just kind of something that became ingrained in them. They realized, you know, hey, I'm good at drawing, I'm good at music, and that carried throughout their whole lives. And some people, it wasn't really a thing. So they have this kind of idea about themselves that they don't create, or that they're not creative. But I think that it's just a problem of definition of creativity, really. Like I think again, like the definition is a lot bigger than we kind of think it is.
Yeah, because I guess like the modern way of thinking of creativity is like someone that takes pictures, or someone that paints, or someone that like it's like you said, it's the conscious side of creativity, where I mean there's lots of creativity in economy, in I don't know, finance, in all these things that we think they're not really creative, but actually what is creativity at its core? It's problem solving, sort of, you know? It's like creative problem solving. Everyone has to do that at some point in their life.
Exactly.
And I guess it's definitely like I don't know if it's a teachable tool because we already have it. Do you think it's
definitely teachable? I think a teacher's role is just to kind of like to bring it out, like up to the surface.
Okay.
If it's kind of like dormant, it's just to bring it out, you know. But you're completely right. Like I think like going along with that, like for example, someone who I don't know, analyzes stuff, like an analyst, that I would argue that there's elements of creativity in that as well. I can't go too deep because I don't know much about analysis, but yeah, like you said, I think it's again, it's kind of a narrow definition.
Definitely. Okay. What else in psychology fascinates you? Like what's like your, obviously you said your creativity side of stuff, but what else captures your like attention?
What attention about psychology? I mean, I think a lot of things. The thing about psychology is that it can be applied to. Actually,
let me ask you a question. Let me just stop you.
Yeah.
What is? Can you please just define psychology for me?
Psychology. Okay. Yeah. Psychology is. I think it's how. It's like the study of. I guess how the brain influences our behavior, and obviously there's different branches of it. There's like social psychology, so it's kind of how like social processes within the mind and outside of the mind can influence our behavior. And then there's cognitive, which is largely how the processes of the brain influence our behavior. But I think as a broad definition, I would say it is just kind of how the mind influences what we do, our beliefs, you know, what we think of ourselves, and what we think of others. It's just kind of, the mind's influence on all of these things. So for that reason, I guess to kind of go to your second question there, or first question, like, psychology is a part of everything. This is why I think it's such an incredible subject. And I think the fact that I'm studying it like alongside working on music is one thing, but it just applies to everything. Everything is psychology. Us sitting here, there are countless things happening right now.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Who are like the and who are like sort of the pioneers of psychology?
I mean, there's so many. I guess, like, if we're talking about like social psychology, I mean, it is a relatively new, I think social psychology especially is like such a relatively new kind of like thing. Because before, people were kind of just looking at like individuals, and they would look at like behavioral psychology, for example, was kind of like it was a thing at the turn of the century in the early 1900s. And so there were people like Pavlov and Skinner kind of looking at how like individual minds work and how external stimuli kind of have an effect on like an individual's thinking. Like, so how, for example, how a rat could be affected by some sort of external stimuli.
Okay, yeah.
So not even just humans, but so those were kind of like, I'd say, the pioneers of like behavioral, but again, that's kind of like it focused a lot on the individual. And then throughout the course of the 1900s, you had some more people coming in, being like, especially like Klaus Holtzkamp, for example, came in and was like, that was over in Germany. He was kind of like, we can't just look at like the individual in isolation. Like, we need to see how the context of someone kind of influences what they do. Because it's not just like us reacting to like okay, let's take an example. I get slapped in the face by someone. Okay, so you could look at how like that's me, like my reaction to an external stimuli, like someone slapping me in the face. But you could also look at the context of like why did I get slapped in the face, and who was I surrounded by? So like, did I get slapped in the face because I said something, you know, harsh or mean or whatever? I said something to warrant getting slapped in the face. Maybe I react like, maybe I'm embarrassed about it because there are other people watching. Whereas it could be different if it was just me getting slapped in the face, and there's just one other person, the person who slapped me. Like, you need to look at the context around it and how social processes influence like our behavior and what we do. So that kind of came, actually, it's kind of crazy because it wasn't even that long ago that we kind of conceptualized like the fact that other people have an influence on us, and the fact that the larger social has an influence on us. So that kind of came towards the end of the 20th century. So, I mean, there's been a lot of pioneers. I feel like I answered this in a very roundabout way. But
It was, I mean, also it was sort of like not necessarily a vague question, but quite like a broad question. So it sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess right now, I mean, super interesting time for psychology, right? Like,
for sure.
Like the last 2 years have been like a complete. I mean, people that work in psychology, they must be having a fucking blast. Like, there's so much to like. There's like the biggest case study of all time is happening right now. You know,
exactly.
Like everyone's on it. Everyone's in this case study.
Yeah.
Like vaccines, fucking people getting polarized left and right, and then there's so much going on. I think there's going to be in maybe not right now, but maybe in like 5-10 years. I'm like super looking forward to like seeing what gets written about what's happened in the last sort of year and a half, how that's influenced society.
For sure. I think it's just kind of a testament to how like you just don't know, nothing is ever for sure. Like, nothing is ever fixed, and everything that we think we know could be contested and could be wrong at like any moment. So like even you see, like you were saying, like it's so polarizing, like everything that's going on, like people who have had like relationships with each other for years, all of a sudden now I feel like things are rising to the surface because of like lockdown and because of COVID, and like you start seeing attitudes within other people that weren't there before, or they were there but like there was no kind of reason for them rising up to the surface. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, like you said, especially like just from like a kind of capitalistic perspective, like psychologists are making bank right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also, but like at the same time, like, like how you were saying, like there's people are bringing out different sides of them and whatever. But I actually think a big side of it is like we have so many influences now. Like, you know, like if you go back 50 years or whatever, you know, whatever. And like, I guess it depends how back far you go. You only have like people around you. Then you have like stories, books, radio, TV, and then the internet. And holy shit, like what the fuck is the internet? And then now, I mean, like it's getting so complicated. I listened to a fascinating podcast the other day. I chatted to a couple of people about it. This guy called Tristan. Did you watch The Social Dilemma?
No, I didn't. What's that?
Yeah, it's just it's documentary about sort of the ethics of social media, kind of like how powerful this thing is becoming, and like how it's too much for us to handle. And it's made by a few people that worked at Google, the CEO of Pinterest, and like a few like quite like people that are in it that know.
Yeah.
And anyway, this guy called Tristan Harris, one of the guys that like made the documentary, this other guy went on Joe Rogan, and they were talking about basically like how much social media has an influence on people, and also how that gets abused.
Yeah.
By, have you heard of the term troll farms?
I feel like I gather where that comes from, but explain.
So basically, it's these I don't know if I call them companies or groups or whatever, but they're based sort of like in Eastern Europe, Russia, and China, and basically they're these groups that make that basically try and polarize Western society. How much influence comes from external sources that we're not really sure what they are. Like it's fake people, some AI, but just an example how extreme it is. So on Facebook, they've done some really dodgy shit over the last few years because they were losing loads of traction. You know, like people stopped using Facebook.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they kept using was Facebook groups. You know, like car groups,
sure,
and like, you know, like for example, camera groups, whatever. And people interact loads within those groups.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
I'm in a car group.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Howdy. Anyway, so, but what Facebook they recognize that, hey, no one's really interacting on the timeline, but people are interacting in the groups.
Yeah.
So they made this new thing where, say I have a group, I invite you to it, yeah?
Yeah.
You don't press accept. You don't do anything to it. But just because I've invited you, now on your timeline, you might see a few of my posts on my group.
Sure.
As soon as you click on any of the posts from my group, right, you automatically accept my request to join the group.
Oh, shit.
That's dodgy, innit?
That's so shady.
But the thing is, right, but on the one-to-one basis, seems a bit harmless.
Yeah.
But imagine someone makes a group and invites 500,000 people.
Yeah.
Just sends a request to everyone.
Yeah.
And then 10,000 of those click on whatever's popped up on the timeline. And all of a sudden you have this massive group, right?
Yeah.
So here's a crazy thing. They found out that in the US, the top 15 Christian groups, on Facebook were all made by troll farms.
Oh my God.
Were all fake.
Way.
And the thing is, the people in the groups are real people from America. They're Christian because obviously it's massive out there, right?
Yeah.
But the people that actually made it and the people that post have like the main posts and stuff,
Yeah.
they're like fake people from like China or Russia or like Eastern Europe that then they have an influence over what gets posted in the group and stuff. So then they have the power to like post certain, for example, say you want to influence the certain group to sort of hate the left or hate the right.
Yeah.
You post like Fox News stuff that like, hey, like all these snowflakes, they're doing crazy stuff. Or you post like, oh my God, I can't believe Trump did this. And then it basically it's almost like a weapon to use to just cause stress in society.
Oh, for sure.
It's fucking scary shit.
God, that's actually crazy. So what? It's basically like fake people posting.
Yeah. Well. Yes and no. So the people that are actually posting could be real, but they're not presenting themselves as an actual person.
Right. Okay.
They take up an identity, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
John Smith.
Right. John Smith. Yeah, of course.
The classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they pretend to be a real Christian.
Yeah.
And then, but this it's not exclusive to Christianity.
Yeah.
Most groups
Yeah.
that they found out that
Yeah.
from the biggest ones were fake.
Right. Sure.
I mean, and like how coming back to the psychology side of stuff.
Yeah.
Like that is such strong influence because how much people spend on their screen every day and then look on Facebook and they scroll and they look at all these posts
Yeah.
and then going back to the context of that, it's like if your main source of information is these like Facebook groups,
Yeah.
then it makes sense why friends that have been friends for like 20 years,
Yeah.
one friend hasn't joined the group and the other one hasn't.
Yeah.
One friend has and one hasn't.
Yeah.
Then this person started they start clashing because now the views are changing because the context of all this influence that they're taking in is changing them as what they believe is true.
Sure.
So I'm really interested to see where that goes in the future.
Yeah.
And I really hope. I mean, there's smart people trying to figure this shit out, but it's
Yeah.
fucking scary. Like, I hope. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's so crazy, like how, like you said, I mean, most people spend so much of their time like online. Like, it's just, I don't know. I feel like half of our lives are kind of spent in like almost like virtual reality already, in a sense.
100%. I mean, like this whole metaverse thing that Facebook announced and how virtual reality and whatever, and we're already there.
We're already in it.
We're already there. We're like, do you know what actually switched my mind to it? I heard someone say, like, basically, I can't remember where I heard this, but that we're already cyborgs. And I thought about it and it's like,
We are.
we have our phone
For real.
is constantly on us. And what is a cyborg? It's just a human and some technology that are almost inseparable.
Absolutely.
And we are that. We're cyborgs.
We are that. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I feel like we don't realize, like, we think, I don't know how you conceptualize it, but I feel like sometimes I think that, like, the online is kind of like, oh, it's like, separate. Like, I go online, but then I have my real life, and it's kind of like a neat kind of like separation, and it's all good. But then I think about, like, so many things in our lives actually, like, prove that there is no neat separation between the online, between our real lives. Like, kind of like a I guess it's like a divisive example, but like cancel culture, for example. All right, I'm not gonna go too deep into it because this is like it's one of them topics, but like people cancel other people online, right? Like, let's say someone gets canceled on Twitter, and that has like real life implications for the person. Like, it's not just something that happens to them on the internet. Like, that can affect their job, that can affect their family, their future, everything. Like, it has such real life implications for people. And I think that's the danger of it. Like, I feel like I'm sounding like an 80-year-old woman who doesn't like get technology, but I don't know. I think that's why I'm also a little bit like I lean towards spending less and less time online and just having that kind of disconnect because I don't know. It's the same thing of just like taking some time out like from socializing as well. It's a constant kind of influx of information and I don't know. I think it could be a little bit more separate than it is because it kind of just bleeds into one another. And I don't know. I'm starting to see the dangers of that, I guess, a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, basically, I mean, and I mean, I don't want to fucking sound all like end of the world, like social media, because there's lots of good about it.
Yeah.
But like, we need to balance it out because social, like all these companies, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, Instagram, like the product that they're selling is the customers.
Yeah.
Like we are the product.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like their form of currency is attention.
Yeah.
And they're all fighting for it. And and attention's fucking expensive, you know what I mean?
Sure.
They sell that shit to advertisers for a lot of money.
Sure.
And obviously they've got to fight for it because they got a business and fucking every year like they got to get 10% on top of that. And last quarter we made $6 billion, and this quarter we need to make $8 billion.
Yeah.
But I don't know, bit of a slippery slope. There was this an amazing quote that I heard. I was chatting to Katie about it. Let's see if I can get this right. So, as humans, right?
Yeah.
So we have Paleolithic emotions,
Sure.
medieval systems, as in like governments and whatever,
Yeah.
and we have godlike technology.
Sure.
So it's like,
That's big.
you know what I mean? Well, there's like,
Yeah.
so at each level, we're always behind technology.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm reciting a lot of information from this one podcast that I listened to, but in China, they basically recognize that their biggest enemy right now is not US, it's not Russia,
Yeah.
it's not any other country. It's their own technology groups. It's their own technology companies.
Yeah.
And they I mean, China's a bit, bit of a strange country. They still got the whole totalitarianism, social credit score, and there's a lot of wrong going there. But no, I actually want to speak to you about TikTok. But their version of TikTok, right, in China, they just made a new law, I think like a couple weeks ago or like last month, where basically if you're, say, I'm not specifics, but if you're under the age of 14, you're not allowed to access it between, say, 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Okay.
in the night.
Yeah.
And also when you're scrolling, between each video, there's a 5-second pause.
Whoa.
And
that's cool.
And also, if you're under a certain age, the content that gets shown to you, it's only educational, science, whatever, a bit of propaganda as well.
Yeah, sure. I gotta have the propaganda.
Yeah, I gotta have the propaganda. But like, there's a lot to take from that, because that just the 5-second thing is amazing.
That's huge.
You know what I mean?
Huge.
Because
that is the thumb.
do you know how often I'll sit in bed and I'll be so tired and I want to watch like a documentary or something.
Yeah.
But it always feels like such a commitment, like 1 hour. Oh my gosh, can I really watch an hour of like some documentary or whatever? And then I sit on my phone, and because I'm like, oh, it's less of a commitment to just watch like a 2-minute video or like a 10-second video.
Yeah.
But I end up spending an hour and a half.
Listen, the impulse scrolling will get you every time. Like, honestly, I think the leading cause, and this is like going back to the whole social media break thing, the leading cause of my anxiety nowadays is my fucking scrolling. It, like, I'm literally like addicted to anxiety, I think. I'm starting to think that like I like just being like just like assaulted with like information and content, because the thing is, like, 9 times out of 10 when you get into that like habit of just scrolling like mindlessly, you will see something that you don't want to see. Like, it's just will happen. There's such
an asymmetry of power there.
Yeah.
Like, us as an individual, we're battling like $1 trillion AI system that is focused to get as much attention out of us as possible.
It's a tough job, but
Like,
someone's got to do it.
Don't know about you, but I'm not worth $1 trillion. I'm not smart enough to fight a trillion.
You might be. Don't sell yourself.
Don't think
sell
so.
yourself short there.
I don't think so. Like, I don't know. There needs to be some change in society for us to have some sort of I don't know, more education around it, or like I don't know. But
well, that's
we can't keep going the way we're doing it right now.
Well, that's the thing is, I think it's like we're in a really unique position, like you said, like we're kind of not even caught up to our own technology in the sense that it's like these massive changes are happening. And we don't necessarily have the tools to like even comprehend them. Like going back to this whole meta thing. Okay, so I was kind of talking about like, you know, social media as a bad thing. I mean, like Facebook is its own thing. I don't necessarily F with Facebook anymore.
I mean, yeah, we're sort of past that stage.
We're
it's
past
definitely our mums and dads in that.
But what I will say is, actually, it was funny because my mom showed me this, and I don't know, like she's just always on top of it.
Shout out your mom, she's definitely watching.
She's definitely watching. She's listening. I know she is. She's listening before the podcast has even come out. That's how deep it is. But yeah, so she showed me, like, she was like, "Have you seen this new meta thing?" I was like, "No, what's that?" And she sent me this video of Mark Zuckerberg fencing a hologram, which, I mean, obviously for me, because I fence like that was really cool. I think that's why she sent it to me, but it just got me thinking, like, that is so goddamn advanced. Can you imagine in like 3 years, we could be living our lives, like, we don't need, and this is the scary thing that I was thinking is like, okay, let's take that fencing example. We don't need someone to teach us how to fence. We can have a hologram do it. Like, we buy this, like, whatever it is, like Meta, I guess you buy it, and then I don't know how it works necessarily.
Yeah, we won't go into specific. It's not necessarily like that, but yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to buy lessons. But the thing is, again, it's like what we said about the cyborg thing.
Yeah.
We're all, like, on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's you can learn anything on YouTube.
That's true, actually. See, this is the thing. Is like I say
We're
this, but
already
it's not
there.
that groundbreaking.
But it is. But the thing is, it is because, like you're saying, it's like it's almost like we can't comprehend the amount of tools we have.
It is unfathomable. Like, seriously.
Scary shit.
No, it's so scary. Halloween came again.
Okay, now, yeah. Do you know what? I wrote a couple of things in there.
You know, I could talk about social. That could be the whole podcast.
Just
but
social media.
I imagine you have other things.
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. Well, actually, like while we're still on the social media thing, taking a munch is fine. Obviously, you're in TikTok. How long have you been on TikTok now?
I've been on TikTok for how long has it been since 2020? I have no concept of time.
What point 2020?
Yeah, I think like it was like literally just kind of around the time that Corona happened, like the first lockdown. I think I downloaded it. I wasn't really doing
March, April, May type.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it very seriously at the time. Like I was kind of just every now and then posting something, but yeah, I'd say I've had my account since about that time, which is I feel like when a lot of people hopped on.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, they could not have made it at a better time. They really smashed it with that one. And you had a video go viral recently as well.
I did. I sure did.
Yeah, the whole Rihanna thing. Actually, tell me the whole story because I don't really know it in this whole entirety.
It's funny. I think it is a bit of a weird one, which is why I think like the video went viral because it's just such a weird thing to happen, and a lot of people were like, obviously, you know, saying it was BS and whatnot because of that. But basically, what happened to me is about 2 years ago. This was I want to say again. The concept of time is a bit weird to me, but yeah, I'd say it was roughly 2 years ago or something. Two and a half years ago. I was kind of in a time of just going really hard with like DMing like people on Instagram and like social media in general, just sending random DMs just for fun, or not for fun, but like just cause asking, like sending my demos and being like, do you want to work together? Like just different producers, writers, people I look up to, etc. And a lot of them, like, I didn't even know them. I just like I didn't really know who they were, but I went on Spotify and just scrolled down on like credits of songs that I really like thought were cool. And I just find these people on social media and just send them a DM. And I think I sent probably like 100 DMs at that point, just like crazy numbers, like just going really hard. And I think like maybe like 1 or 2 actually got back. And it was I won't say who it was, like for safety purposes, obviously, but it was like this producer duo that I really looked up to. I really loved their stuff, and they were like, yeah, this is crazy, like let's get in a couple sessions and work together. So
you sent them like a demo of the song, or
I sent them like demos of my other stuff,
of your other stuff,
that I just had kind of accumulated, and they were like, yeah, this is sick, let's do some sessions. And we had booked in a session to work together like towards the end of that week, but like a couple days after I had sent that DM, they had like already, I guess they were like listening to my stuff like actively. And so one night I was like about to go to sleep, and I checked my phone, and there was an email, and it was from them, and they were like, yo, and at this point I think it was probably like 11 or 12 at night, so again I was like ready to go to bed, and they were like, yo, like, do you want to write a song for Rihanna? Like, do you want to write something to pitch to Rihanna? Can you have it ready by like the next day? And I was like, yeah, sure, yeah. Like, I got some shit lined up, obviously, for this reason. Like, yeah, for sure.
Oh my days.
So I just basically responded, kind of trying to play it cool, and was like, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is what it is.
Easy. Yeah, I get these offers all the time. Yeah. Rihanna?
Who's that? So yeah, I kind of like, I had a little bit of a panic, and then I sat down, and I basically didn't sleep. I just made this song. I just sat down and produced it and wrote it basically that night, and then I didn't listen to it. I had Alex, my brother, and also one half of my management. I just sent it to him. I was like, yo, is this good? He was like, yeah, this is fucking sick. So I was like, great.
Sweet.
Send it. Let's do it. And they really loved it. They loved it. Obviously, when it comes to stuff like Rihanna, it is tricky because apparently if you send like something to pitch to her, whether she uses it or not, it's basically like there, like you can't release it, which is something that I didn't know. But basically I realized I actually really liked the song. Like it felt really, after listening to it again after that night of not sleeping, it felt like it was really me, and it felt really authentic. And we basically, my management and I agreed that I should just hang on to it because, I can always write more stuff, but if something feels special, like you should probably hang on to it, especially if there's a chance that you'll never be able to put it out.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I ended up hanging on to it.
And not sending it to Rihanna.
And not sending it to Rihanna, not for pitch. But it's a really good song, and I ended up putting it out recently, and then I posted a TikTok basically sharing that story. And yeah, some people, it blew up. It did. It's nearly at, like, I think it might be at 1 million views now or something, which is wild. Considering like I've never had that kind of virality before. But some people really thought it was, a great story, or like they really connected to it and were like, yeah, that's sick. And it got a lot of hate as well, because I think a lot of people it is a crazy story. Like I will say, like, I was shook when it happened. I mean, I can't sit there and be like, yeah, this happens to me every day.
Yeah.
So
when you send a song, to like someone like Rihanna, as soon as you send it, and then it's like you can't use it.
I think so. Yeah, that's kind of, I think that's the gist of it. And the thing is, I don't know if this is with every like pop star. I don't know if this is a general rule of thumb or something, but basically that was what kind of we were told. in the sense that if you pitch something, you are pitching it like this is for them and no one else, you know, no one else can take it. And that also means that you can't use it. Because the thing is, I guess in a way it does make sense because these projects are massive. Like you have so many people like contributing, so much is going on, and they take long periods of time to make. Like I think that was for one of her albums that still hasn't come out.
Right.
So it's like obviously like if I sent them that song and then you know I release it and then she's like, "What? I was gonna release that." That'd be kind of awkward, I guess.
That would be awkward. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Fucking Rihanna.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I fully still believe that it can happen.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll.
Do you have any regrets actually not sending it, or are you happy you held on to it?
Personally, I subscribe to the belief that everything happens for a reason. So even though I have my moments where I'm like maybe it could have been a better decision to send it and see what would have happened and just like have taken that L. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna just chill because I feel maybe it happened for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that just wasn't the path at the time for whatever purpose or reason.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
but because, you know, this is the thing is like, I feel like just because at that time it didn't happen. It doesn't mean Rihanna, if you're listening, shout out.
What's up, Rihanna?
I do love your music.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I guess we moved on to the music side of things. We haven't even said that. I mean, I would have introduced that you make music.
I'm a social media analyst.
You're a social media analyst. But yeah, holy shit, you make music and you're really good. You've put a lot of time and work into it. And actually, I mean, you put in, oh my gosh, so much work into it. Jesus Christ.
Thanks.
Just a genuine question, innit?
Yeah.
Because I speak to Alex and he's always like, yup, yeah. What's Anna doing? Yeah, she's working on her music.
Yeah.
All the time. Do you always work? Do you like work on your music, or do you like sometimes procrastinate, watch YouTube videos or whatever, or are you literally like?
So, at the risk of sounding like pretentious or whatever,
Don't worry about anything. Just say it.
Like I feel like I don't really procrastinate in the sense that like when I sit down to like work, I almost have this like overwhelming sense of guilt if I am procrastinating. Like I'm honestly not that much of a procrastinator. Like I think that's one of my favorite qualities about myself is that when I sit down to work, I'm usually working. Like I'd rather just take a break like later.
Yeah.
As opposed to like sit there and just like stare at the screen or like twiddle my thumbs. Also, I think the way that my brain works is if I'm not like constantly doing something, I get super anxious, and it just like sends me down a thought spiral of like things that I shouldn't be thinking about. So I'd rather just like do something all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's not good to dwell on things, but it's good to have a moment of silence.
Sure.
Do you meditate actually?
I do meditate, but I have that moment of silence when I should be sleeping, and then I do all my thinking when I'm about to sleep.
Hit the hay.
That's why I fall asleep at like 3 a.m.
Yeah. Just sit there like stairs.
Literally.
Just like
vibrating.
Yeah. Okay. When did you start making music? Well, okay. At what point? Because you've been like playing the piano and stuff from quite a young age.
Yeah. My journey with music has been a very long one. I feel like music has kind of always just been around for me. Like I've never seen it as something that was like separate to my identity, I guess. So I guess we'll start when I was like very young. I started taking piano when I was like 5, like formal lessons, which I stopped taking formal lessons at some point and just kind of winged it. But piano was kind of like the first start. And then I think at some point I did a couple like voice lessons, and I had some people tell me that I had a nice voice. And again, this is kind of like, it's one of those moments where you kind of like identify yourself almost through other people. And I guess having people tell me that I was like talented at something it gave me the confidence to like keep going with it. But then I think I really started writing songs when I was about 9 or 10, because actually it's funny, Alex started taking guitar lessons and I was really jealous of him. So I would like lurk on his lessons, like I'd kind of like hide and like listen in. Yeah, like hide in the corner and like listen into his guitar lessons. And I'd kind of just pick stuff up and then I'd run up to my room and I had this like kind of like plasticky little like guitar. And I would like just like practice the chords and then I would start singing over them, just like riffing over them and stuff. And I think that's when I first started like properly writing songs. So quite young at that point.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until later. I say this all the time, like whenever anyone asks me like what was your first big influence, it actually was Ellie Goulding. Like even though
you've said this before.
I've said this before, like, but I'll say it until I die because that first album of hers was so influential for me because basically I was doing stuff on the acoustic guitar, right? So that was kind of like my first, like the first type of music that I made was like acoustic stuff. But then I heard this album of hers and it had all these like really pretty like synths, like glittery like things.
You love that as well. Till today, you still have them like
so many of those. I still use it. Massively influential, but that was like the first time when I realized like you can build this whole kind of world around your music. Like it doesn't need to just be the songs. And also you can do it yourself. I had like a couple times in my life where like this old like 40-year-old man would like approach me and be like, oh, that sounds really creepy. That sounds so sketchy when I say it. Well, basically it's kind of a long story, but like, I don't know, like you'd have, because I guess when you're kind of like performing a lot, you do meet like producers, like in air quotes, like people who are like, oh, I can produce a song for you. But then the type of stuff that they would do, it was just so bad. Like it was so stupid and pointless. And I was kind of like, you know what? I could
stiff.
probably. It was like? Stiff. It was like so weird. Like it just didn't. It didn't work. It wasn't a vibe, for lack of better word.
Yeah,
it wasn't a vibe. And I think even when I was like 14, 13, I was like, you know what? I could probably do a better job. So I kind of just started with GarageBand, just like experimenting and like adding little drums and stuff. And I wasn't really taking it very seriously until like a couple years ago, to be honest. That's when I really got into production and really, I feel like that's when I finally came into the sound that I have now. And I credit that to teaching myself how to produce. Like it wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Yeah. Do you know what? I love Ellie Goulding's version of your song.
Oh,
love that one.
Chef's Kiss. I love that. That was on repeat. Like that was my whole childhood. That's why I'm so sad and melancholy now.
I fucking love that song. Anyway, damn, and now, I mean, how, if you could estimate how many hours a week you spend on music making?
And it comes out to a lot of hours. How many hours are in a week?
128.
128 hours. I mean, the thing is,
I think something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, it sounds about right. When I'm working, like when I'm properly working on my music, the thing is I'll start in the morning and I'll just end at night. Like it's kind of an ongoing process. But it's also, I mean, it's kind of hard to measure because you have days where things happen and things come together and it's like flowing, like you're in flow state. But then you have days where you're just kind of like chilling, like staring at a screen and nothing is working right.
That's really important though.
It is important. It sucks, but it's important.
Yeah, there's
acknowledge that.
One of my favorite, I guess, I quite like, I mean, I'm not sure if I quite like, but like self-help books and there's self-help movement. There's a lot, very, very popular right now. And there's a lot of bullshit around, but some really good stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a great, probably one of my favorite books is called The War of Art. So there's the really popular book called The Art of War.
Yeah.
And then this one's called The War.
What, the Sun Tzu book?
No, so which one is that?
That's the Art of War.
The Art of War. So one called
The War of Art.
The War of Art.
Right. Okay.
So that's not the Japanese one.
That was written by his evil twin brother.
Yeah. Is it Japanese or Chinese?
I think Chinese.
I think
it was Chinese.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, this guy, basically, it was this like sort of struggling writer who didn't really achieve anything until he was like 40 or something.
Yeah.
But his whole thing is this book, and he doesn't just write self-help books. He writes lots of novels, and he's really good at it.
Yeah.
Oh man, what is his fucking name?
Who is this? I bet I would know.
Do you know what?
I would know. That sounds.
No. I do want to speak to you about books, but
yeah. Sure.
So anyway, his thing is just about like basically just turning up, like treating.
Is this the guy that wrote like He always has like a curse word.
No, that's
oh, it's a different guy. Yeah.
The art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah. Okay, different guy.
It's not that.
Sure.
But anyway, his whole thing is just about like the importance of actually just turning up every day and treating your profession, like your creative process as a job.
Yeah.
Like you turn up at 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. or whatever, and you just have to sit down, and no matter what.
You know what? There's
Stephen Pressfield.
Stephen Pressfield. I actually don't know.
Yeah. I've never heard of him. Great book.
Really?
Love it. Yeah.
It sounds up my alley. Yeah.
The War of Art. It's this.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually because this is a weird little obsession that I have. Actually, is like reading about famous creatives, like routine, like how they work, and like literally like what they would do in a day.
Oh yeah, I've been that rabbit hole.
You've been on. It's a rabbit hole for sure. But there's actually 2 really good books written by the same guy called Mason Curry.
Okay.
The first one he wrote about like just famous creatives, like artists, like philosophers, etc. Like, you know, the big names, like big philosophers and
cool. Yeah.
Authors and stuff. And then he realized that book basically, and he had some people like write him being like, there are like no women in this book. There are like no female people at all in this book. There's like such a lack of representation. He's kind of like, oh yeah, that's a bit awkward actually. You're right. So he wrote another book that was all like female creatives.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. That one actually is my favorite out of the 2, surprisingly.
It's just more relatable, isn't it? Of course, yeah.
It's more relatable. And it's really fascinating about just like the way that different, because that's the thing is like I think sometimes people feel bad because like they read about like one person's way of doing things and they're like, I don't do it like that. And that must mean it's like wrong, you know, like if someone wakes up really early and the other person stays up really late.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing is you just need to find the routine that works for you, or maybe you don't have a routine, but you just need to find it and just like stick to it and do it. And like you said, turn up every day. Like there was this one I think it was Maya Angelou actually. Her routine was really interesting. She woke up like mad early, like 5 or something, and she would go to a hotel room. She'd like go to a hotel room that she rented out. Obviously, if you don't have the money.
Okay, yeah.
But like it was like bad hotel rooms. She said the dirtier the hotel room, the better. And she would like sit in this dirty hotel room and she would just write until like sometime in the afternoon. She'd come back, read her work to her husband, but he wouldn't say anything because she's like, he's not allowed to comment on my work. I just read it to him. I thought that was so funny. And then that was like her routine. So she just wrote in like dirty hotel rooms. Like that's such a niche thing to do. Like
you just have to find it. I mean,
exactly.
But also, to be honest, the only I guess the only overarching theme that I personally found out through this is that basically all people that have made something out of themselves in terms of success from these self ventures, is that they all had a routine. Doesn't matter what it was, but they had a routine where every day, more or less, they would do the same thing. And it's not like, we're not talking about mundane, every day we'll come up and sit in the desk, but there's a connection from every day to the next to sort of keep you at a, sort of, I don't know, like a I don't even know what it is, but almost like
it's like a
linear. So there's some connection from day to day.
Yeah.
Like personally, I find, I'm still trying to find my routine and get as consistent as I can with things, but I find myself, as soon as my days start to become too different from each other, and like there's no, like sometimes like I travel quite a bit for work and stuff, and like I'll go to a party or whatever, and And as soon as that routine gets broken and like something weird happens where the connection between one day to the next,
it's just like disrupted.
It gets disrupted, and then you sometimes I don't know. For me, I sort of lose track of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then it gets easier to get sidetracked by whatever's happening around you, because there's a lot of stuff happening around you all the time. Because I think sometimes people look at routines as this like, oh, it's so boring, and like you don't get as much freedom in life, or you don't get as much. But I actually think it's the complete opposite. Because if you have a routine in life and you get all your shit done, then you have the freedom to do whatever you want. Because for me, when I do the opposite, when I don't have a routine, and then I spend the day being sidetracked by whatever, and then I have plans, like say the following evening with a friend, right? Because I spent the whole day being sidetracked and not getting the stuff that I wanted to get done, I then lose my freedom to go and see my mate, because then the following day I have to do twice as much work.
Yep.
So I don't know. There's this guy called Jocko Willink. He's this like ex-Navy SEAL, American, like proper big boy. Big boy. Anyway. But his thing is, I mean, he's quite an intense guy, but his whole thing is like discipline is freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. And I think that's yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's just like you said, you just feel, I think it's more conducive to like mental health when you feel like at least get like 5 things done. I think that's a good like way to kind of mark it out. That was kind of my first experience with actually feeling like I'm getting stuff done is literally just writing out like 5 things to get done one day. They don't have to be like massive, but just like checking them off as I go. And then you at least go to bed feeling like I've done taken a step towards.
It feels so. It
feels so good.
It feels so good, but before that, it almost feels a bit dumb when you start,
it's
because
like
it's
scratching an itch.
It's so simple, yeah. It's so simple, and I used to do this. I mean, I'm not anymore, but I used to dismiss stuff like that almost. So it's like, why am I writing this fucking stuff that I know I'll get done anyway? Like, wash my clothes. I don't know. Have breakfast.
You gotta write down breakfast and check it off.
But you know what I mean? But it's so simple, and I don't know what it is. Some psychological, whatever. You probably know more about it, but
for sure.
But
I know more about it.
Yeah, you definitely know. You do. But I don't know. There's a lot.
I mean, there's a reason why so many successful people, especially successful creatives, do it. Like, there has to be something to it, and everybody's different. But like, who's that guy? Haruki Murakami. He wakes up at he literally does the same exact thing every day. He doesn't switch it up at all when he's writing a novel. He'll get up at 4, he'll run.
Smoke 10 cigarettes while running.
Yeah, smoke 10 cigarettes while running, obviously. And then he'll run I don't even know. He runs like a half marathon or something. I don't know, something crazy like that. Yeah. And then he'll just write, and he won't stop until whatever, 5 or whatever, when he eats a meal or something like that. Yeah. But he does the same thing, and that works he's prolific. He's a prolific author.
What's your routine?
My routine?
I don't know.
What is your routine? Well, so I guess it's kind of, I've had to switch it up from, I guess, before I started my degree up again, because that's also kind of made, that has to be considered. I actually feel like starting my degree again has been really helpful to kind of break up my day. Mm-hmm. Before, I think the days kind of all melted into one, but now basically I will wake up and get ready, whatever, have breakfast, maybe play some piano to just get the creative vibes going, get my brain in a good place, and then I'll typically just do some uni work for a couple hours just because I feel like, I don't know, that kind of thinking, I think I do best in the morning, like when my brain is really kind of clear and like focused.
Same.
Yeah, like analytical work just works better for me that way. And then I'll take like a break to like work out or something, like move my body, do something good for myself. And then I feel like that's kind of like a clean break then. And then the evening is just like I kind of just work on music and like creative stuff, because I feel like naturally anyway, my brain is a little bit more loosened up and like less inhibited when it's like later in the day. Like I can just kind of like throw ideas. It's almost like throwing stuff at a canvas and not really thinking too hard.
And also you've done the things that you had to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're not worried about whatever.
Exactly.
That's good.
And so you can kind of just create, or like some days, I mean, different every day. Sometimes I have to like edit something. Some days I'm actually actively creating something new. But yeah, I'll just kind of go until I'm like tired or like I need to eat dinner or something. Yeah. And I've gotten better at listening to like when I'm timed out, basically. I used to just go until I was exhausted, but now I think I've gotten better at being like, I like to have, I think it was like Hemingway who actually came up with this concept. It's like, you should have a little bit of juice left in the tank. Like you shouldn't go until you're absolutely no ideas left, completely exhausted. You should go until you know what comes next so that you have energy to do it the next day. Because otherwise you're just going to burn out. It's
very similar to sports, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you can't go all out every time because then you'll get injured.
For sure.
In creative world, you get burnout.
Which is so real. Creative burnout, I feel like
sucks.
It sucks. And there's a stigma around it because creatives are supposed to be this, you know, all creating like machine, just keep coming up with ideas.
Content.
Yeah, content creators. But it's so real. And I honestly, I want to say, like, I think I probably burn out more easily than, like, even, I think Alex burns out less easily than I do. Alex, I guess, I mean, he was on this podcast before I was.
Yeah.
He's a photographer. He's my brother. And I don't know, he's very natural with his routine, I've noticed. Like, he works until, you know, he's not feeling the vibes. Then he, like, takes a break. He regularly, like, is just able to kind of take breaks throughout the day, but he still gets everything done that he needs to get done. And I'm always looking at him like, how do you just do this? Like, how do you just do this and you're so natural with it and you don't get burnt out? And I think the key for me was also learning to literally listen to my body in the same way that you would, like, intuitively eat. Like, you have to listen to the cues from your body being like, I cannot take this anymore. Like, I cannot be creating anything else right now.
What do you want a water bottle?
Oh, yeah, that'd be great, actually. Thank you. Oh, it's fancy.
Fancy. This is podcast water.
A podcast water. It's canned. I like that noise.
Yeah.
Sick.
Well, okay. I mean, you gave a very, like, broad description, I guess, of your day. But do you have any, like, must do? Like, no matter what, whatever the day is, what's, like,
my must-dos. Like you said, I think I have a must-do of I have to sit down and I have to, if I'm not making something, I have to be, like, actively editing something or doing something to contribute to my music in some way. Because I've learned that, like you said, even if it doesn't feel like a lot, like even if I do, like even if what I've done that day amounts to a few minutes, it all actively contributes to the bigger picture in some way.
100%.
And you're always getting better. If you put in time, you will always get better, no matter how slowly. Like,
and I don't know. I think about it almost as like, say this can, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say this can.
Yeah.
Say at the top,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like it's your goal.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to see because also you don't know when the top comes as well. You don't know where the top is. You don't know what it will take to get to that point.
Yeah.
But you have to fill it up, and that happens over time. You can't just do it in one go. And you know what I mean. One day you might do, say, 5% of it. Sometimes you might do 10% of it. Sometimes you just do little by little, and you fill up the can.
You will inevitably.
You fill it up, but you have to. Yeah, you have to just stay at it, because I struggle with this big time, where it's like sometimes I'll sit down to do work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And but at that point, I know I have to, like, I've learned now that I have to step back and be like, okay, this does not make sense right now.
Yeah.
But it will.
Sure.
At some point.
At some point, it will click. This is like the thing is, recently I've had to be really strict with this rule as well that I have for myself, because like I've had a bunch of like assignment deadlines as well as deadlines where like I need to get songs to my manager have like come together in like really close kind of order, and I've had to be really strict with this where like I have to set exact times, and like I'll sit down in the evening, and even if it's just a few minutes, I need to work on polishing these stems to get them off. And it's like, it feels like it's not coming together. It feels like it's not coming together. And then one day I'll be like, oh, the song is ready now. Like I can literally send it off, even if it feels like I've only been doing it bit by bit, like little tiny things. And yeah, I think it's just like, I think there's not enough to be said about just slowing down and taking it at your own pace and just putting in the time.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I do.
But also, I mean, there are other things that I feel like I have to do in a day. It's not just all about work.
It's not all about work.
It's not all about work. Gotta exercise. You have to move your body.
Yes, you do. And yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. I've opened up today. I don't know. Before I used to, like, I don't know, almost not push people into doing exercise, but I've come to terms that, like,
you literally push people into the street.
Fucking get out and go for it. But like, each person has to find their own way of exercise and what feels right for them. It's not always enjoyable, but that's kind of also the point of it. Having a bit of discomfort is
it's for the growth.
I do want to switch up the theme, though, the genre.
Sure, go for it.
And I know you like this one.
Okay.
Yeah, the paranormal.
Oh my God. I should have mentioned this, actually. See, this is the thing. When people ask me questions, like, I don't think about, like, there are so many things that I want to say that I'll just, like, say things and completely ignore, like, whole aspects of my identity because I just forget. But yeah, this is actually another thing that I should have said is, like, spirituality and the paranormal is such a massive part of my life. I incorporate it, like, pretty much every single day.
What do you mean? In what way do you incorporate?
Yeah, I should explain that, because it's not like I'm out here like communicating with ghosts every day.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. I wish it was like that. I wish it'd be like that. But in the sense that I feel like I do read my, like, for instance, I read my tarot cards almost every day. It's gotten a bit less now because things have just been really hectic, but typically I like to end my day by doing like a tarot spread, because it's just a really nice way, I feel like, of checking in with your kind of subconscious and like what you're actually thinking about when you don't even realize it. Because I think a lot of people have this idea of like tarot and stuff as being like, oh, it's like woo-woo, it's not real, it's fake. Like, but I think it's a lot to do actually with psychology and your subconscious. It's like, it's literally your subconscious is telling you what you're thinking about, and you just need to be like in tune with that and read the signs. Your say that again. Your subconscious
is telling you.
Yeah, basically it's like your subconscious telling you what you're actually thinking about. It's like it's all, again,
in what way? So
when you're kind of let's say you do a tarot spread, you pull 5 cards. Those cards, right, are very like, they're symbols, but they can mean so much. Like there are, sure, you have like books that will tell you like that it might mean this, it might mean this. Like people have different opinions on stuff. But what those symbols mean to you is very personal to, especially what you're thinking about, because things will automatically come to mind. Like if you pull like you pull the Fool card.
Yeah.
depending on what you're going through, depending on what you asked about, like, let's say you asked about what is happening in my career right now, what's the next thing for my career, depending on what you asked, depending on what you're thinking and feeling, you're going to prescribe your own meaning to that card. So it's basically just you checking in with yourself, being like, what am I actually thinking about? What is kind of coming to the surface as soon as I pull this card?
Right.
It's basically, I see it almost as a form of meditation. It's like what comes to the surface when you are focused, when you're being mindful, like when you're thinking of one thing and looking at one thing.
I think that's for me personally, I think that's the key for it. It's like, regardless if you think it's woo woo or whatever, and I do think it's woo woo, but
I know you do.
But like, I don't. But I fully subscribe to that idea of sitting down in whatever shape or form and assessing the inner, assessing yourself through whatever medium you do that. If it's meditation, if it's tarot reading, if it's crystals, if it's whatever.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the sitting down and doing it.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily. I don't think it actually matters what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
If it's your zodiacs, if it's whatever. Because they're all kind of woo-woo.
Yeah.
Because if you look at them factually, it's hard to
you can't it's hard to science.
It's hard to science it because it's not necessarily science. There's a whole other side of humanity where it's I don't know if it's placebo. I don't know if it's like and I talked to this about Ella as well, about her her previous therapist, where she uses all types of like alternative healing ways, and again, my opinion of it is exactly the same. It's some therapies might be more helpful than others, but just the fact that you're doing it has benefits.
Sure.
It's just sitting down and going to the inner. But also, what I wanted to ask you about is, I want you to tell a story that you have told me before, but it's just so great. I want you to tell it again.
Yeah.
Your experience was it in St. Andrews?
St. Andrews, yeah. Okay, this is a big one. This story is my claim to fame. I tell it at parties. It's great at parties. It was possibly one of the craziest experiences that I have ever gone through, and it's funny because it actually came right before my life completely changed as well. In the sense that I literally moved to London and started my music career like right after that. So basically, I was at uni in St. Andrews, and I was living in this flat that was built in, I think it was probably built in the 70s. Like nothing very special there. Like not even like a really old, not much going on. It was this place kind of tucked away behind a restaurant in like this alleyway, and I was living there with a mate. And it all kind of started when she was in the flat by herself. I was out for some reason, and we had these kind of like glass doors looking out, and she looked out while she was unpacking her stuff, and there was this couple standing there like peering in. So they had like obviously come through the alleyway and were like standing in front of the house looking through the glass doors into the flat, and she kind of came out and was like, hey.
They were just chilling there.
They were just chilling there looking in, and she walked outside and was like, hey, can I help? Can I help you guys? And they were like, oh yeah, we're the landlords. Like we were just checking to make sure everything was okay. And she was like, yeah, everything's fine. I'm unpacking. And it was weird. Like it was weird.
This was what, day one?
This was pretty much like day one, like one of the first days. And it was weird. The reason why we both thought it was weird when she told me this is because we're not supposed to deal with the landlords because we found the place through a letting agency.
Okay,
and
right.
Technically, the landlords aren't supposed to have much to do with it when it's in that
that's why they
situation.
use letting agents, just so they don't have to deal with it.
So they don't have to deal with it. So and just the way that they asked her, it was very strange. Like she said it felt off somehow.
Right.
It felt, she had that weird kind of like twist in her gut where she's like, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that happened. That was kind of like, that was an initial thing, but we kind of forgot about it.
On its own, it's not much.
Yeah, on its own, it's not much. So we'd been living there for a couple months, I guess, at that point. It was about October time. And at that point, my flatmate, she... I think she was gone for a week or something, and I was alone in the place. It was like reading week or something, so I was by myself there. And granted, the place was, I guess it was maybe a little bit creepy being alone at night and stuff, as things are sometimes. Normal stuff. But on this particular night, I was doing some work. I was sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden, I had this weird smell in my nose. Like it like wafted through, like it was almost like it smelled like a floral, like women's perfume, which I thought was bizarre considering I don't wear perfume. My flatmate doesn't, and also she was gone all week. She was not there. And it was so foreign to me. I was like, what is that? Like, it like wafted almost as if like imagine like a lady wearing a lot of perfume like walks through the room.
You
can
smell
that from a mile away. And it was there. Like, it was literally there. I sniffed. I was like, what? And then it was gone. Like, instantly. I was like, okay, that's really weird, but well, fine. It's okay. And then almost like, not even like 10 minutes later, I get violently like just nauseous. Like I literally need to lie down. I get so ill. Like I literally feel like
10 minutes later,
something like crazy like that. Yeah. I need to lie down. I lie down for like half an hour. I just like almost have never felt so sick, just completely sick to my stomach. And then it passes after like 30 minutes. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Little did I know that would not be the last time that happened. That happened to me throughout the semester. No explanation. At one point, it was even accompanied by like blurry vision. That was really weird. And there were people with me at the time as well.
Say that in the blurry vision thing?
Yeah, like I had like blurry vision.
Oh, you had
blurry vision. Like I was standing there, and for a while I thought maybe it was like circulation problems, but it was just really weird because every time this happened, it was accompanied by that scent. Like it was like the scent, then there would be a brief interlude, and then I'd feel just like violently nauseous. And that was really weird. And I started thinking that it was maybe me because I didn't really necessarily see my flatmate or anyone else kind of feeling these things or smelling. Like I would smell it, and then someone would be there with me, and I'd be like, yo, do you smell that? And they'd be like, no, like you're tripping. Like what is going on? Yo. So I really thought, I was like, okay, the stress is probably getting to me. It's fine. It'll be fine. So I started doing a bit of research on like weird, like olfactory. I think that's the word for like, yeah, like olfactory hallucinations when you like smell things that aren't actually there.
Okay.
And the three things that came up, I think, were like, okay, you have olfactory cancer, like you have like a cancer of the nose. I was like, okay, all right, it's good start. And then the second one was you have schizophrenia, also a great option. We love that. The third option was paranormal activity. Those were like the three big ones that came up when I researched like nose hallucinations, like smell hallucinations, basically. So I was like, okay, not really great options. I'm just going to put this to the side and just continue going about my life. It's probably like anxiety or whatever.
Yeah.
It got weirder in that flat after those initial kind of like weird hallucinations that I had been seeing. Like we started having some weird like technical problems in the flat. One of them was, this was probably one of the craziest ones. There was an alarm clock, like this analog alarm clock that I had brought with me that was broken. Like it wasn't working. It hadn't been working for maybe a year or two. It was like an IKEA alarm clock. I don't know. It just wasn't working. Yeah. Shout out IKEA. And it was basically, I kept it in a box in the living room because I wasn't using it. And then one night at like, I think it was midnight probably on the dot. My flatmate and I were upstairs, and we just hear this like this really loud ringing just going off downstairs, and we both have a heart attack, run down the stairs in our pajamas. We're like, where the fuck is that coming from? And I hear that it's coming from the box. I open the box. This alarm clock just went off on its own. It wasn't even on. It wasn't on. It wasn't on. It hadn't been working. It just goes off alone.
Okay.
And then after that point, we also started having weird, anytime one of us was using the shower, the light in the bathroom, even though it was a new light, it would just turn off. It would literally just turn off. And we'd we'd let each other know that had happened by like screaming. And then the other person would have to like pry open the door and like turn on the light without like walking in, because the other person was obviously like naked in the shower and stuff. And that started happening. And then another thing that was weird is our boiler started breaking down. So our boiler was also I guess the agency had installed a fresh boiler, brand new, but it kept breaking down. And we tried to get it fixed like multiple times. We had new people come in every time. It was a new repairman every single time. And every time they'd be like, there is nothing wrong with this boiler. Like I've checked it from head to toe. Everything is right with this boiler. Like there is nothing wrong. And it kept breaking down. So just basically weird kind of electrical problems happening. And then I'd also have these really horrible nightmares. That was another big thing. I basically got no sleep that whole year because I'd always have nightmares in my room that I was in, and they'd always be about the flat. I remember distinctly the worst nightmare that I had was I was walking down the alleyway to get to the flat. So the alleyway that was actually, there. I was walking down that alleyway, and all of a sudden I just see like bodies like springing up out of the ground, and they're just like littering this alleyway. And there's a guy standing at the end of it with like some sort of a weapon, like a machete or something like that. And then all of a sudden this wave of sludge just like washes over everything. That was probably the scariest one that I had, but I had these like horrible kind of like night terrors periodically. So that was kind of all going on throughout the year for me. Again, I was kind of fighting myself at this point, because I was like, there's some weird shit going on. Like we'd also hear like things walking around upstairs when me and my flatmate were both like downstairs, just like weird things, doors opening and closing, and like things, just strange happenings basically, that were all kind of eerie. But I guess you could say like a skeptic might be like, there's explanations for all of that, which fair enough. Personally, I was experiencing a lot of like psychological trauma from it. Obviously, I wasn't sleeping very well. I was pretty anxious all the time. And at one point throughout the year, like I rang my mom, because I was like, listen, I think there's some weird stuff happening here, but I don't know. And she was like, you're probably just anxious. Like, it seems like you're overworking yourself. Like, try and relax, take some days off. And so I kind of left it, even though I was experiencing all this stuff. And then at the end of the year, my mom came to help me move out of the flat. And we didn't really notice anything weird at that point. My flatmate had already moved out, and we kind of just like, honestly, I forgot about it for a time because everything just felt so normal. And then I had to leave a day early to go to London, and my mom was there for a night by herself. And she told me after this, she was a skeptic about anything paranormal before. Like, she'd always be like, yeah, it's fake, like not grounded.
I mean, a bit of context, she's a very straight goer, German lady. She's got her wits about her. She is
got her wits about her. She's very skeptical about everything and anything that she can be skeptical about. I mean, KOKO knows my mom. She's a very particular character. Mom, I love you, but you are a big skeptic in a lot of things, which is fair.
Yeah, it's a good way to be.
It's a good way to be. So anyway, she decided to sleep in my room that night, just because I guess she was curious about, she was like, I just want to see what it feels like to sleep in that room. Yeah. And so she did, and she got woken up at the same time that I always woke up from my night terrors around, this is maybe between 3 and 4 in the morning. She woke up And she's lying there, and she's like, she feels like she can't move her body, right? She's like paralyzed, like
it's like sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis, like she can't move her muscles. And she's lying there, and all of a sudden she hears like whispers from like kind of like circling around her. And her first instinct is, at this point, she knows she's awake because she's like trying to think through things.
Right.
And she's like, she hears these whispers, and she's like, are those seagulls? But they sound like humans. They're like, like weird, like a chorus of like weird whispers. And then all of a sudden she hears a man's voice. I'm getting chills like talking about this. She hears a man's voice in her ear being like, come. And she's like, I nearly lost all of my like she was absolutely and mind you, she couldn't move her body. So she had this going on. She's like, I've never been so afraid in my entire life. After about 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes of that.
Oh, that is torture. 10 minutes, that would have felt like an hour.
No, literally. She's like, I couldn't move. When she could finally move, she's like, I got up, I ripped open the door, ran downstairs, and started banging pots and pans on top of each other, being as loud and noisy as possible to try and expel whatever energy was happening.
I'm getting chills.
She's like, this was about 6 a.m. at this point. She packs up all her stuff that was like left to pack, and she's like, I bolted. I locked the door, handed the keys off to the letting agents, and I just sat in a cafe until I had to go to the airport because I couldn't be in that flat anymore.
Oh my days.
And I'm telling the thing is, right, she didn't tell me this until about a year to a year later, because she was like, I didn't want to worry you. I was like, Mom, you know I had like psychological trauma from this experience. Why would you not tell me so I could feel validated? She's like, I didn't want to tell you because I've never been that afraid in my entire life. Now, the last part of the story is almost the craziest part to me, right? Yeah. Okay, so when she told me that, I was like, yo, this is not done yet. Like, I need to have closure about this.
Yeah.
So, mind you, one of the biggest kind of ways that St. Andrews makes its money is through ghost tours. And it's like
through ghost tours.
Through ghost tours.
Oh no way!
Yeah. Like it's a big the town is supposedly very haunted, so they have ghost tours pretty frequently.
Obviously.
Jesus
Christ. Yeah. Anyway.
So I emailed one of the people who runs like the ghost tours. Like he's this guy who's dedicated his life to the paranormal, I guess. And I emailed him without telling him what I had experienced. I was just like, "Can you tell me anything about this property, like this kind of area that I was living in?" And he comes back and he's like, the restaurant that was basically right next door had hella poltergeist activity. The chefs were always experiencing weird things, like things flying off shelves and like a lot of paranormal activity happening in the kitchen. And supposedly another ghost that haunted that kind of square of land was the ghost of some lady who died there. And when he told me that, I nearly lost it, because for me, that would explain the woman's perfume that I was always smelling. Like, it just made sense. My mom heard a man's voice, okay? This poltergeist is apparently a male figure somehow. I kept smelling this weird perfume and like getting really nauseous like minutes later. And all of it just kind of like clicked for me. And I was like, I mean, I probably was living in a haunted flat. And mind you, I was alone for so much of this time, because my flatmate, like, her degree was like, she was done a lot sooner than I was. So she was out of there in like April, and I was there till June. So I was alone so much in that flat, and I was like going through it because I thought I was going mentally crazy. And the thing is, maybe I was. Like, I still think about it and I'm like, maybe I was crazy. Maybe I was just losing it. But that was one of the wildest experiences I've ever had.
That is scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it's just like stuff like that. It's like,
you couldn't pay me to go back there. I'm sorry. You could probably pay me.
Yeah, stay a night. Stay a night.
Stay one night.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that's and then shortly after, I dropped out of uni and changed my life. Yeah,
the music artist, and now you're back at uni, but not living in that flat.
Not in that flat. But I will say that it kind of did open my eyes to like the fine line between the paranormal and the psychological, because again, maybe I was just going crazy. Maybe it was paranormal activity, but there's always a fine line, I think, between that.
Yeah, anxiety, less like not much sleep. Things going wrong in the flat. So there's a lot of variables.
Yeah,
there's a lot of variables there that like. Yeah, I mean, what do you think happens after we die?
I think, and see, this is an interesting question because I was raised as a Roman Catholic, right? Okay, not that I grew up in a really strict like Catholic family, but that was kind of the line of thinking that my parents prescribed to, and that's just kind of how I was raised. I even went to Sunday school, which I'd say is I was pretty connected to that for a while. So I do think that we have, souls, and I do think we have life after death. But I think as I've gotten older, my beliefs have kind of become a little bit more like interconnected with other thinking. Again, I consider myself maybe not so much religious as like spiritual. Like I think there's aspects of certain religions and certain beliefs that I really resonate with, and for me that works. So for example, I personally think that we're reincarnated like when we die, and then at a certain point when we've achieved enlightenment, we go into the afterlife or whatever. But I think genuinely, and who knows, maybe this thinking changes as I get older, but for right now, I genuinely think that we come to Earth to experience, certain things, learn certain lessons until we don't need to learn them anymore. And then at that point, we've become enlightened and we can, go on to the good place, I guess. But yeah, I think it also kind of just helps me think about, like, for me, it's just a good way to look at like morality, and it's like a good inspiration to basically just be a good person and to just be kind and like to have a purpose, I guess. It just helps me conceptualize that. And yeah, again, I think for me, beliefs and like spirituality and religion, I think it's all very fluid. But I do think basically I don't think we just die and we are just dead. What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I don't know, innit, because I feel like I'm a very pragmatic person.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I actually think there's a lot of beauty in the end of things. I think new beauty comes from old beauty dying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a fine balance there. I think when we die, we make space for new life and for new things to happen.
Yeah.
So I do think when we die, that is it.
Okay.
But I do think that we do leave an effect on the world. Small or big, everything's relative, because even the most influential people in the world, depending on what scale you look at, they don't really matter. You know what I mean? If you start looking at planets and universe and whatever, it's just a dot within a dot. Like, nothing really matters to that extent. But if you look at it on Earth, individuals, they can have massive effects on societies.
Yeah.
Like Genghis Khan or Socrates, or
the guy who invented bread.
The guy that invented sliced bread.
The guy that invented sliced bread.
You know what I mean?
He knew it.
He knew what's up. But I mean, also like just, I don't know. And this is what, this for me about how you're saying about, being a good person and being kind and whatever. For me, it's like, I really like the idea of the butterfly effect, where it's like, because and it's like a domino effect, because you do something good, you make an example of how something can be done in a better way, and then someone hopefully takes note of that and then they do it, and then it transcends within society. And like, we're so connected, you know. There's that I'm not sure if it's a fact or a theory, but we're 6 people away from everyone in the world.
Yep.
So it's like
6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees of separation, that's
Yeah.
it. So I mean, if you think about it, like, we have a lot of influence within our society, and so I don't necessarily like, I think life after death is the ideas that we leave behind.
Yeah.
I think that's my perception of life after death. I don't think it's necessarily like spirits or whatever, but again, it's how you define spirits and how you define define the spiritual world. Is it actual spirits, or is it just the things you leave behind, and then they? Because say you live kind of like a boring life, or like you kind of you haven't done good in your life.
Yeah.
People will not, like, you won't be as remembered, and your soul won't live on as much as it would if you really took risks in life.
Yeah.
You really pushed yourself. You done a lot of good, because then your soul lives on in the way of
in what you make,
in people you've influenced, in people you've helped, in the children you've raised, in, you know what I mean. So I do believe in life after death, but then in that way.
Yeah.
In that way.
In that sense, That's a really interesting way to look at it. I think it's like I think some people see it as like, yeah, we die and then we die. Like, for me, it feels very brutal. It's like, it's just kind of like, yep, all right, we're just get buried and that's that then. But I think it's true. I think it's a good way to look at it. I mean, regardless of whether you believe that we have, souls or whatever, or you don't, I think it is important to acknowledge that you have the power to leave something behind. Like, whether that's in a big sense or whether it's in a small sense, literally everybody has the power to influence people around them, hopefully in a good way, but I mean, obviously in a bad way as well. And to create something that can further the people that you leave behind. And I think, I think also bringing it back around, I think that's why artists are so cool, is because they make stuff and they just leave it, and it wasn't there before and now it's there and it's going to be there indefinitely. And you can
sort of indefinitely.
Sort of indefinitely. And you can people can take from it what they want. And I think that's really beautiful and it's really special. And I think if you feel you have it in you, you should create something to leave behind in some way.
Okay. I think it's time to move to the next section of this podcast. There's going to be a bit of an interlude because I need a wee.
Oh yeah, I could probably use one as well.
I need a wee. You've witnessed me wee before.
Actually. I have.
You have?
We've come quite close, I think.
Actually, before the interlude happens, because I talked to this about Alex, about our Iceland trip and that fucking insane trip.
Yep. It was
where we had to get rescued and whatever. That was mental. And obviously, for me, I kind of enjoyed that experience in terms of like, it was scary, but I was in control.
Yeah.
Because I was driving. Yeah. So like I was sort of comfortable in that position. My
life has been in your hands.
Yeah, literally. But what was obviously, just a bit of context. So we went to Iceland to shoot one of your music videos.
Yeah.
And then basically we were driving to one of the Airbnbs. It was a really long journey. It was meant to be like 8 hours or something. And halfway through, this crazy snowstorm came earlier than it should have, and we got stuck in it basically. And we had to get rescued by this snow patrol people, and we had to drive like 4 hours through this insane snowstorm. I mean, it was It was like nothing like I've ever experienced before.
Like it was honestly the way I remember it was like a fever dream at this point.
It was,
Wild.
I mean, insane winds, insane, like zero visibility. Shout out to all the like the Icelandic snow patrol, and there were volunteers actually, the people that saved us.
They were doing it for free.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah,
to
wild.
Me. Like I couldn't have even have stepped out of the car without getting whisked away.
Literally, it was dangerous to step out the car.
So dangerous.
And it's so funny because in Iceland, when you rent out a car, they tell you when you open the door, hold it. Because they've had multiple cars come back without doors because they just get flown away by the wind.
Yeah.
Like the weather in Iceland is no joke.
Just like for context, like even when it wasn't a blizzard, I had a hard time walking upright. Like the wind was that crazy.
Yeah.
If you don't weigh much, you have to hold on to everything.
Everything. Yeah, especially if you're on the coast. I mean, it was crazy. But anyway, so we were driving back and these snow patrol people were trying to rescue us and like another 5 cars, I believe. And it was pretty scary. How did you feel in the back? Because you were in the back seat. Me and Alex were at the front and you were in the back.
I was in the back. A lot was kind of going through my mind. I don't know if I ever had a moment where I was like, yeah, this is the end. I think instinctively I knew that like we'd be okay, especially when like, I mean, okay,
It felt life-threatening.
It felt life-threatening. When the rescue team hadn't arrived, I was definitely like, okay, this may be it. I might just die on a highway in Iceland and that's that. Cool. But when the rescue team arrived, as scary as it was, and it took multiple hours for them to actually properly get us to safety. I don't know. I felt like you and Alex are good people to get into like life-threatening situations with. I feel like you guys were definitely not cool about it. No one was cool about it, but you handled the situation very well. And I think that kind of carried over to me where I was like, you know what? We do have a little bit of control over the situation in some way.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy though when you guys had to like pee into bottles and I was just kind of in the backseat being like, yep, people are literally peeing in the car right now. Thank God I didn't have to go to the bathroom because the whole time I was like, if this goes on, I'm going to have to figure out how to pee. And I don't know what I would have done. I would have had to properly, I guess, take my pants off. There was a plastic bag in the car. I guess I would have had to pee into the plastic bag.
Like life gets to a point, where it's like nothing matters.
Nothing,
and you're like, yeah,
that's that.
It's acceptable to pee in a plastic bag. That was acceptable.
No, it would have been because we were literally like we may or may not have died. So at that point, it's kind of like.
Do you know what you needed? You needed a shiwi. That's what you needed.
What is that? What's that? What is that?
It's a device where you sort of slot, if you're a lady, sort of slot in.
Oh, okay.
And then you can just pee.
Wow, that's really handy. Do you know what? I might invest. You never know when you're gonna get.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how effective it is, but.
What a boss. I bet a girl boss invented that.
I mean, I don't think it was a guy. I don't really know what.
You never know.
Maybe it was.
Maybe it was a guy. I don't know. I just think that's really cool because guys always have it so easy in that situation. Like
so
just
easy.
Pee into a bottle.
Literally,
or
like we can go to the park and pee. Like,
yeah. And girls have to all this like you have to.
No, there's a lot more logistics involved.
Yeah, so many logistics just to pee.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, a little interlude because we've been drinking lots of beverages, neither do we. But we'll come back stronger than ever for the next part where I get my tarot cards read.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
By me.
By you. Well, we don't have a third person. Maybe the ghost in the house is going to come help us. All right, cool. Little break.
Cool.
Oh, man.
It's been a while since I've read your cards.
Yeah, well, you've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. Got to take off the jacket.
Take off the jacket. It's getting real in here.
Whew. Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, you're ready?
Yeah, I think so. Right. Let me just move the hummus and stuff. Oh, I like the
Thank you. So
packaging.
Basically, yeah, I had a box and I was like, this isn't very
aesthetic.
So I wrapped it in cloth. There's a very aesthetic cloth for those at home.
Let me just have a look at if it looks good from there.
Okay.
Second camera angle is happening.
I'm gonna.
Oh.
Is that okay? It's still plugged in. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah. I
okay,
can
cool.
hear you.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's preface this by saying I will be referring to my tarot Bible, because even though I like to go off my instincts, I also like to kind of reference. If there's something, especially if I'm reading for another person, sometimes not everything's going to fit.
Okay.
So it's good to reference sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
Every now and then. I guess let's start by...
No, that's fine.
Is that cool?
I'm just going to point a bit that way because I guess
cool.
you're going to be looking at me. Yeah.
Okay, Koko, we need to start by asking, is there a question that you have? Is there anything that you want to ask about right now that's pressing to you?
Ask about? Okay, can I, in terms of questions, can I literally ask anything?
You can ask anything.
Anything. Okay, so, damn. Try not to get too personal because obviously it's public and that, but
for sure. You could keep it general.
Yeah, I'll keep it fairly general. I think I just about my the future of my career.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd quite like to ask, just like I have some ideas of where I think it should go.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. So I'd like to explore. Career's always been an interesting one for me. I've taken quite an unorthodox route with work, so it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm just shuffling.
Okay. Yeah.
Seeing if anything jumps out. Keep focused on that question though.
Yeah.
Keep thinking about it. Oh,
something jumped out.
We'll do a 5 card spread.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So, I'll explain kind of what each card signifies when
Okay.
shuffling. So those 2 popped out. I'm going to actually save those. So we'll leave those as 2 kind of ones that are going to be important for the question. And this one looks like it came out as well.
Okay.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have you shuffle.
Okay.
Just shuffle as you would and stop when you feel.
And I feel ready.
When you feel ready.
Okay, cool. Like shuffling. I love how big tarot cards are.
I know, it's hard for me because I have small hands.
Yeah, you got small hands. Yeah. Should we try a cool shuffle?
Yeah, do it.
Well, it's gonna be hard. This card's so big. Oh my gosh! Right, let's see if I can do this still. Let's try this. Oh my gosh, they're also hard.
They are. Yeah, they're not very flexy. Shout out, Mr. Weight.
There we go. That was nice.
That was
shuffle.
pretty good, actually. That was a good one.
I'm happy with that.
You're happy with that?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to cut the deck.
Okay.
Cut the deck in half. Put this on top.
Okay.
And then we're going to see.
Okay.
Okay.
You laughed. Lots of pentacles going on.
Okay. I think we've had this problem before. This was the first time we read each other's cards. It was like, which way do we want to have it facing? Because you're this way, I'm this way.
Okay.
So
it matters.
Well, some people like to read it, just take it for what it is. Some people like to say the reverse meaning is different than the upright meaning.
Yeah.
So, I think the reverse meaning has meaning in itself. So I guess the question is, what do you feel? What would you rather have it facing you?
I'm happy. I'm happy as they are.
Yeah.
I don't think we should change anything. I'm happy the way they came out.
Right.
We can read from that.
Okay. I'm gonna read it. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read it the way that it is facing you, basically. So if it's facing you and it's upright, then we'll take that as upright. If it's
okay. So you read it as I'm looking at them.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's probably
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Okay. So, all right. So, kind of judging by, I guess I'll start by saying this is past. This is your present.
Okay.
This is kind of current, like, things influencing your life right now.
Okay.
This is advice for the situation, or, advice, general advice. And this is future. So this is like maybe near future or sometime later in the future, but it's the future.
Okay.
And then these cards popped out immediately. So those are kind of like important to the situation.
Okay.
Okay, so
Your Bible.
I pulled out the Bible, but the first thing that I'm noticing, which I think is really interesting, is there's a lot of pentacles here. Okay,
There's lots
there's
of
a lot of pentacles. Which to me, first of all, that's interesting because that actually pentacles are related to like money and career. Like
really?
that's one of the meanings. It's like material success and things like that.
Okay.
Which is interesting. The other thing that's really interesting is it's related to earth signs in astrology. And you are a Taurus.
I'm a Taurus.
Which is a big sign. Earth sign energy.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Basically, the sense that I'm getting is this spread is definitely for you and about you right now. So Ace of Pentacles kind of has... It has something to do with money, obviously. It's kind of about like financial success, and pentacles, aces are kind of about like they're like green lights, essentially. They're like starting things, like this is a go, basically. So
This is just my past.
This is your past. This is your past. So it looks like in the past, you've been doing pretty well, like financially and in your career. Looks like you've been doing a lot of projects, and things are kind of rolling for you in terms of just like career opportunities, and things are kind of have been looking up financially in a material sense, as well as like kind of in a career sense. And then the present now I see is the reversed King of Swords. I'm going to take a brief interlude to look at the Bible because...
Yeah.
So swords, basically, to start out with, swords are all about kind of like intellectual pursuits, and kind of like thinking and analysis, and being kind of like detached a little bit. It's kind of like mind over like body, like intuition, kind of. It's reversed for you here, which for me, it feels like right now you might be making a lot of decisions like detached from your instinct, if that makes sense. Like you might be kind of more focused on analyzing things and seeing things more from your mind,
rather than my instincts.
Rather than your instinct, almost maybe because it's reversed, maybe that's kind of almost to a fault, I guess. Maybe not necessarily a fault, but it seems like maybe what it's telling you is you should maybe refocus on, or maybe, kind of refocusing on the gut, like the kind of the gut instincts that you have regarding certain things. So that's kind of what's happening in the present right now. But let me look at what this is telling me, because since it's a reverse meaning, it always kind of has
its own unique
things going on. And sometimes you get new ideas from this as well. So so the king Oh, that's King of Swords. So it relates to authority and command, right? So for reversed, unfairness, overcaution, injustice, maybe explain. This kind of does go along with what I was saying. It feels like maybe there's like an element of overcaution at the moment. I guess that's a good way to phrase it. There's that element of being overly too much in your head, being overcautious, and maybe it's maybe a good time to just go with the instincts that are coming across.
That's my present.
That's your present.
Okay.
For kind of influences that are happening, it looks like this is the card, and again, Pentacles is related to like material success and material wealth. And what I'm getting from this is you, and it looks like you're being quite charitable. You are offering a lot of help, and maybe that's not necessarily in like a material sense. Maybe this is you're offering kind of your time to people, who knows, but you're being very charitable towards other people. And there's a lot of you helping others and you giving to others right now is kind of like an underlying influence that maybe isn't necessarily consciously on your mind, but it's happening as you giving a lot to other people, and a lot of other people are seeking you out for help. So that's kind of like underlying influences to look out for.
And what was this?
This is the advice card. So this is kind of like advice. So from this card is also...
Making my own money.
Well, yeah, actually, the funny thing is this is kind of like, again, financial kind of material stuff. And this card is about building.
Yeah.
So building something, as you can see, my guy's got a little hammer.
He's hammering
at something.
That's really interesting.
You're working on stuff. You've got a lot of projects going, which I mean affirms like what.
This, yeah. I mean, I was talking to Alex about it, about just building this podcast, which has been like a long time coming, and it's something that I know is going to take a long time to build. And use that word specifically because it's I've really wanted to start. I really wanted to begin something where it takes a long time to make, basically. And obviously, each episode doesn't necessarily make a long time to make, but the podcast in its essence as a whole thing is going to take a long time for it to get to a stage where I'd like it to be. So, and I'm happy with it as it now, but it's,
Yeah, I mean, from what I can see, I usually take this card, especially in its upright position, as a really positive thing. And it's basically just reaffirming that the process that you're undergoing right now, this work, is going to bring something to fruition, basically. And the advice here, the takeaway is you just have to keep hammering away at it and just keep taking steps, like we were saying, every day. Take steps in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly what we were saying, actually.
It's actually exactly. It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And then the future card after all of that is the Ace of Cups. I actually really... This is one of my favorite cards, probably. It's a really, first of all...
It's really pretty.
It's a really pretty card aesthetically.
I didn't even see the hand with the cloud and stuff.
It's beautiful, the white dove and everything. This card, cups are about... in astrology, it correlates to water signs. So, like Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, all those signs. And something that correlates to water signs is creativity. And kind of like creative energy and playfulness and artistry and anything to do with the creative realms. And even like, the funny thing is even like kind of yeah, like acting, almost acting in a sense, maybe even like voice acting, or like we're doing a podcast right now, like things like that all tie in. And again, aces are like green lights, basically. They're like, this is a good time to do this. This is a good time to start whatever project you're undertaking, or it's a really good, clear sign for that. So to me, what this symbolizes is this whatever you're working on, the projects that you've kind of got going on, it's giving you a green light for them, and it's saying it is the right thing to do, and it is going to manifest in the right way, and you are going to basically reap your rewards, whether those are creative or monetary, as we see in the Pentacles. The rewards are going to be there, and you're going to feel, like you've really made something beautiful.
Very, very reassuring. It's I mean, really interesting, because I sort of feel, and I haven't necessarily felt like this in a long time, where I'm sort of happy with the projects that I'm working on.
Great.
This podcast especially, is a big part of that, and it feels right. It really feels right. It feels like I'm building something, and it feels like I will get the benefits of it eventually if I keep at it and if I keep hammering.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally exactly what you would want to be seeing then. And then the other thing we have here is 3 cards popped out that are quite interesting.
Very different from what's going on here.
Yeah, quite different. So the Knight of Wands. Okay, I'm gonna hop back into the little tarot Bible for this one.
Okay, yeah.
Let me just
Is this wands as well?
Those are wands as well.
Okay,
that's interesting. So basically, wands correspond to like fire sign energy. Like there is a very kind of hot, powerful, kind of like forwards, like moving, like very talkative, like noisy kind of energy.
Loud energy.
Yeah, like a loud energy. Like if you think of fire signs, you usually think of people who are very like spirited and like powerful and kind of speak their minds kind of a thing. So I'm gonna just reconfirm something here.
Chariot.
Knight of Wands. It's funny as well because, I mean, these are some cards that, like, there's so many cards in the deck,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No rush.
Knight of Wands. You have, well, it's in its upright position facing you, so I guess we have to read it from that perspective. Ooh, you're gonna like this one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Knight of Wands corresponds to changes in the air, creative energy. So we've got an important event related to enterprise, new people, new ideas and experiences, a business trip, perpetual motion. So the sense I'm getting is this coming time in regards to your career is going to be really new, and it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah.
As in, you're going to feel really kind of stimulated all the time, meeting new people and like bouncing new ideas back and forth. So I would say that's probably a really great card to get right now if you're kind of questioning, what's the next thing for my career. This is kind of an affirmation that whatever is coming is going to be really exciting for you.
Very reassuring. I like that.
So then we've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8 wands.
8 of Wands. So for the 8 of Wands, haven't gotten this one in a while actually.
So these are sort of like extras, and they're not necessarily correlated to anything, but you take what you want from them.
You take what you want.
Okay.
I think they popped out because they do kind of, they're related to the situation in some way. They're like important to your life right now. So for this one, it was reversed. So this one is telling you while it's a really exciting time, this one is telling you to pace yourself. go at a pace that feels right to you and don't overexert yourself because, again, like we were talking about earlier, kind of, which is funny, you should always have a little bit of energy left in the tank. So don't, like, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to burn yourself out because there's so much to do and so many exciting things, but go at the pace that you feel comfortable with and don't rush because you're going to get there eventually if you just put in the time every day.
That's really interesting. I actually wrote about that same concept in my diary. Like,
no way.
Yeah, last couple of days.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
just
wild.
I was talking about how I always set I always sort of set my goals a bit too high, and then what ends up happening is I sort of get burnout and I get not overstimulated, but I sort of put too much pressure on myself to do too much, and what I end up doing is the complete opposite. I sort of back away from it because the task is so scary that I don't know how to approach it.
Yeah.
And I just don't end up doing it. And I've recently come to terms as like not necessarily to like lower my goals, but like to become more specific and pace myself.
Yeah.
And to you know take it easy and make it sustainable, make it something that I can go on and do without it's basically not repeating the mistakes that I made before, which I have done. I've burnt myself out many times, and I've set tasks where they just have been they've just been unrealistic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You have to know yourself. Sometimes it's, like, oh, I want to do that and I'm going to do it because I'm confident in myself to do it and blah, blah, blah. But quite often it's unrealistic. So I don't want to say I've lowered my standards, but I've become more specific about it and more, I think sustainable is the right word to use. Yeah,
for sure. I think it's also important to like recognize what you've already done and like how far you've already come with stuff. I feel like, especially like you and me and like even Alex, I think sometimes we forget that while we are striving for these goals, we've also done a lot, and it's important to like take stock of that and not just always be thinking like too much, like too forward without acknowledging like
100%
what we've done.
100%. Yeah. And it's easier said than done, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah. Sometimes it's sometimes you do things and then you do them and you're like, you don't think anything of them. You look back and you're like, wow, that was actually mad.
Yeah. Especially like, I say this about you and Alex all the time. Like the stuff that you guys do is mad, and you're just kind of like, yep. Yeah.
I mean, Alex got his picture in Vogue today.
I know.
That was mad.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
I mean that was like one of his like life dreams. So
I know.
That was pretty cool. And the interview I done with like Lewis Hamilton not too long ago.
Mental.
And like sometimes you like when you're doing it, it doesn't feel like a big thing.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. Like I just went to set, chat to Lewis for a bit and whatever, and someone else was interviewing him. I was filming him. Like, cool, job done.
Yeah, job done.
And then I look back, I'm like, wow, that was actually like, yeah. It's but sometimes it's almost like we live in a world where it's almost like you have to act cool. Let's it was Lewis Hamilton, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or it's like, oh, my picture was in Vogue, like. It's almost like it's not cool to like be excited about like
because then it makes it seem like that's not normal for you, and you have to keep up the appearance of like, I'm so cool, this stuff happens all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a weird there's definitely conversations to be had about that. But anyway.
Yeah. Should we look at this last card that you got?
The chariot. It looks scary.
Chariot. Actually, I do feel like
a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. I think, again, this is one that actually, I'm getting a lot of cards here that I don't normally get, which I don't know what that means necessarily, but pretty interesting. This is very cool, actually.
Chariot backwards.
Chariot backwards. Okay, yeah. So we have to look at it from a different perspective. Okay, so this one is actually, it actually corresponds to what we were talking about. It kind of, in its reverse position, right, it means out of control. In its upright position, it means progress through balancing opposing forces. So basically, it's the same thing as you want to be careful to make sure that you're balancing opposing forces. And not letting, one thing get really out of hand and the other is just like down here. Like you want to make sure that you're keeping the balance while you move towards these goals, which I think is just a reaffirmation of everything. Is like, just maintain balance. Like there's absolutely no shame in knowing your limits and knowing when you've done enough and knowing when something is like, same thing about, we were talking earlier about that 70% rule, is like, it is completely okay. It's more than okay to just be like, I have done my best and this is good enough. It doesn't need to be 100% perfect every time.
Yeah.
So chariot reversed, I think.
Cool.
Is yeah.
That's a good way.
I think all in all, this is a positive spread for you guys.
Yeah, very, very positive.
I'd say it's looking up for you.
It's looking up. I like it.
Yeah.
Really pretty.
Really pretty. Yeah, a lot of yellows actually, which is interesting.
A lot of yellows. Yeah.
I don't know, but again, I think it's really interesting that it seems like this is spread. Whatever is happening here is very much for you, because I rarely see so many pentacles at once, and I just think that's strange considering you're a Taurus. Yeah, but there you go.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That was really interesting. I actually want to take a picture of it on my phone, so I'm just going to stop the second.
Do it.
Second recording.
Do it. Actually, I'm going to see if. I do find it really interesting that there's so much yellow. I wonder if there's anything about colors on here. Maybe I'll just...
We're not done yet.
We're not done. Well, I just want to get my... Maybe there is something about colors in here.
That's so hard to
Oh. No. Oh well. I'll look it up later. I'll let you know what yellow means.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was really fun.
I love stuff like this, As much of a pragmatic earth sign as I am and whatever, I love stuff like this.
I think it's great. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily like, this is the thing, is I think people who say like science and like esotericism is like mutually exclusive, I don't think necessarily. I think it's all just an extension of who we are as people. Like obviously, you take what resonates, don't take what doesn't resonate, but it means something to you, and it helps you kind of look at what actually is going on in your real life and your subconscious, which that pertains to science, if I do say so myself. It pertains to what's going on in your mind and what is cognitively happening. Yeah. So, there you go. It's not all woo-woo.
It's not all woo-woo. Woo-woo. Okay, before we sort of end this podcast, is there anything you'd like to ask me? Anything you've always wanted to ask me?
Oh, we're switching roles now.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, there are probably a lot of things that I'd want to ask you.
That's like beatboxing.
Can you beatbox? No, yeah, there is something. Let me just give me a second to
Phrase
think, because you've thrown me into the deep end here.
Yeah. That's okay.
How do you get out of like a slump is a good question, I think, for me. Like, I like to know how people manage to get out of like low points. I know that's pretty deep.
Do you know what? It's I go back to basics. Okay, so whenever I'm in a slump or I'm not feeling good, and this works every time. I go back to, like I said, I go back to basics. But what does that mean? It means to, like, I think sometimes we just try and overcomplicate life in terms of we need to be doing this and we need to be doing that. Like, life in this day and age can be very, very complicated. There's, like we've talked about, there's a lot of influences. There's a lot of pull for our attention in all types of directions. And when we're in a slump, I see it as a time of weakness. You know, it's a time of, like, when you're not your 100% there. You're not, like, you don't have as much strength as you normally do, mental strength. So your attention is a lot easier grabbed by external sources because you don't have that normal focus that you have on your work or whatever you're trying to achieve. So you're way easily distracted. So what I do is I start meditating. Mm-hmm. Meditating helps a lot.
Yeah.
It's so okay. It's meditating.
Yeah.
Diary. I write my diary. Really good. Those two are great for accountability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Accountability is super important to just, like, keep yourself in check. So those two, exercise and food. I think that's all in terms of.
It's a very pragmatic approach to it.
Very pragmatic, and I mean, it's amazing what a run can do when you're feeling shit.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it makes you feel better, but
I mean, it does.
Yeah,
it can.
It's the second degree happiness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not straight away because you know, when you go on a run, and I try. It's not always. I'm not saying, you know, not always, but I like to do it without music.
Okay.
So without, just go with my, go on a run, no music, sit with my thoughts. Sometimes I think it's really important when you're feeling sad or you know, depressed, or you're frustrated, or I think it's really important to sit with those thoughts and not because it's so easy to get I'm repeating myself, but it's so easy to not look at yourself. It's so easy to not look in the mirror because, you know, we have social media, we have friends, there's cinema, there's nights out, there's alcohol, there's drugs. There's so many ways to not do it. But I think it's so important to sit with your emotions and recognize that you're not 100%. And quite often, I think, like, self-help books and stuff, they hold a lot of value.
Yeah.
They hold a lot of value in them. However, you know, they can be a procrastination in themselves. Like, sometimes you read something and I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes information without the action is sort of useless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're not going to act upon it, there's what's the point? You know, and it's not always, you don't always have to act upon information that you consume, of course, because that would be chaos. But, like, what I'm trying to get at is, I think we almost always have the answers within us.
Yeah.
And we just need to sit with ourselves and just ask ourselves questions. Because quite often we can give great advice to other people, but it's I think it can be way harder to do that to yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the way I get out of slumps is just to look in the mirror. I don't stand in front of a mirror and just look at myself.
Who are I?
Yeah. Is that a KOKO? But you know what I mean? I sit, in silence. I go through my thoughts, and I start from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, it's so frustrating, and, like, I don't think it's going to become any less frustrating when you're in a good routine, whatever, and it gets broken up, and you're like, fuck, like I have to start all over again.
Yeah.
And that sometimes even that on its own can be a sort of a procrastinator of you getting better, because you're like, man, I don't want to start again. I don't want to start from zero. But also it's important to remember that you're not starting from zero, because you made that work before, you stopped, but you're not necessarily starting from the beginning. You're not necessarily going to start from the same spot, but there's some half point where you're like, okay, cool. I've made progress, haven't lost it. I know, I know it's a bit vague and it's a lot of information that I'm saying, but I think
No, I don't think it's vague.
Yeah, I think it's I read a book ages, like years ago, and it's called Elephant in the Brain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know it.
You've mentioned this to me. It's been on my TBR.
I've got it. I'll give it to you.
Oh yeah,
I'll give it to you after. And it's it's kind of like the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
But it's the same concept, but it's the elephant in the brain. You know when there's a problem. Everyone knows. Everyone's got demons.
Yep.
And everyone knows the demons are there.
Yep.
But we just choose to ignore them.
Yeah.
I choose to ignore them often, but I do the work. I sit down and I look at my demons and I recognize them. You have to figure out ways to fight.
Do you think it's ever warranted to not face your demons? Like, do you think it's warranted to just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna chill with this guy.
I'm just gonna chill with this demon.
Because I guess I say that because there's been some pushback in recent years of some people being like, yeah, it's good to like meditate and journal and like face what's going on, but there comes a point when you're almost hurting yourself by spending too much time in solitude, too much time over analyzing things and getting too in your head, which to an extent, I mean, I am a proponent of being alone and fixing your stuff alone.
Yeah.
But I do agree sometimes it gets to a point where it's like, maybe you should just go to the cinema with a friend, and just like be with someone and, and try and, I guess, not ignore the problem, but divert and see if you can heal through maybe it's just a manifestation, maybe it's a problem that is a manifestation of overanalyzing or something.
100%. I did actually miss out that part because I do believe that too. I think number 5 of those things is to have a good friend session.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really important to surround yourself with good people.
Sesh.
You know what I mean? It's good to, just like you said, go to the cinema, go and play, go bowling, or just have a nice dinner where you just chat.
Have a water balloon fight.
See what I'm saying? Like, it's we underestimate the power that has, to our psyche. Like, it can do amazing stuff. I mean, not always, of course. Like, there's push and pull within friendships and within interactions with humans. Yeah. But it's so important to our general happiness, I think. And like you're saying, with over analyzing it sometimes. I think I do. What I do is I do all those things so I don't overanalyze and I don't sit too long in that unproductive, it's just it's not great to dwell on things for too long.
Yeah.
And that's why, I don't know. And this thing, going back to basics, just exercise, food, meditation, diary, good socializing. It works fast. You know what I mean? And the thing is, I know it works fast, but I don't always do it. You know what I mean? I've had some real bad slumps this year where it's taking me a long time to get out of. And I know the answers. I know how to get out of them, but I don't always do it straight away because fuck knows why. I mean, it's just like it's inner battles.
Yeah,
there's always inner battles happening.
Sure. I feel like Yeah, I mean that's the thing is I've been in low points as well, obviously, especially like this past few years, like these past few years have been rough on everyone. I think also sometimes being in low points feels a little bit addictive. I know that might be a weird thing to say, but like I've been there and sometimes it feels almost like the self-pity feels like nice. You're like, yeah, I'm in a low point, so I can't get out of it. And it does feel a little bit like, I don't know, maybe you just like don't want to. It is also good to wallow sometimes. I will say it's okay to stay in a low point up until a certain,
of course, yeah.
a certain point. But yeah, I did have 1.5 more questions.
1.5 more, yeah, of course, yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay, well then I'm gonna ask more.
Yeah.
Because I've got, but okay, I will begin with this question.
Okay.
Do you think that you are more of an old soul or more of like a kid, like inside, on the inside? Do you feel like you have a small child in your body?
Like 100% yes, but like I don't know, it's confusing. It is confusing for me because sometimes I put quite a lot of effort, in because I'm quite a big guy, and like I look a bit older, and like I hate intimidating people.
Yeah.
And people can feel intimidated by me just because like my figure and whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes I try and bring out that kid side of myself to like lower people's guards.
It's a great side of you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really enjoy it. And I don't know if I mean, I'm silly all the time. I do like, I don't know. I just
You are kind of an enigma. Like sometimes I myself am shooketh because bringing it back to the olden days. Because it's just like you have, obviously when I first met you, I think I definitely saw that side of you that was quite like goofy and like silly and stuff. I was like, wow, what a big child man. Big man child. But then as I got to know you, I realized like you do have this side of you that can be very, very like serious and introspective and almost to the point. Why I ask is because like sometimes it gives off like not like old man vibes, but like definitely like very mature. Just because I feel like a lot of people have kind of, not to say most people are one-sided, but I guess the root of the question is, what is natural for you? Like, who is the real KOKO?
Who's the real KOKO?
The people want to know.
The people want to know who the real KOKO is. Gosh.
And maybe they're both the real KOKO. But
gosh, it's more than two, you know.
There's a couple in there.
There's a couple. I don't know. I've kind of I've come to peace with the fact that I'm a bit of a chameleon.
Okay.
Like,
interesting.
And it's not like I change. Everyone changes around different people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if the fact that I moved to a different country when I was 14 and I sort of had to fit in, if that had a big influence on my persona or if that's how I've always been.
Yeah.
But I guess have the skill to sort of fit in super easily in places. Like you can put me in an opera one day and I'll enjoy it. And the next day you can put me in like a heavy metal fucking gig.
Yeah.
And I'll mosh. So I don't know. Like I don't really know I think the real KOKO is just he. I don't know. It's hard to like speak about myself from like almost like the third person.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. I it's not like I look at I see the best in people.
Yeah.
But like I see that. It's like the problem you have and you try not to sound pretentious and whatever.
No, I mean, I just speak your truth.
Yeah, but like,
cool.
I don't know. It's not that I always see the best in people. I see the best and the worst.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of beauty in both. And I try and take my ego out as much as possible, because we all have an ego inside of us that's like tries to keep up some sort of status and some sort of like identity and whatever. But I try and minimize that as much as possible, because in my personal life, I think part of it is very important, 100%, to have like an identity and to feel like, to know who you are. But like lowering that standard sometimes, not that standard, but trying to minimize the effect your ego has on your behavior can be really good, because it opens you to new experiences and experiences through how other people live. Because when I've been super fortunate to like have like an array of friends from all sorts of like, I was super deep into sport, and then like super deep into like sort of the music video world, and like with rappers and dancers, and then with like some really smart people, some like proper chavvy people at school. So I've had like such an array, and obviously in Bulgarian and like people in Bulgaria. So there's been such a variety of people that I've interacted throughout my life, and it's not even just interacted, but been genuine friends with.
Yeah.
So you sort of like, as soon as you, I don't know, there's sort of I don't know if it's a threshold or whatever, but as soon as you interact with a certain amount of people, and you realize that we're so similar, like everyone's so similar at the core of what we are. Like we all want to be happy, we all want to be liked, we all want to be loved, we all want, like, I don't know, just, we all want very similar things, but with the way you approach life can be quite different. So I forgot your question.
The question was like, who's the real KOKO?
Who's the real KOKO? And I think I ask myself that all the time, and I don't know what the answer is really. But
it's like a rhetorical question, I guess. It doesn't necessarily have an answer.
It doesn't necessarily have an answer. I try to be ever evolving. I don't want to. I'm scared of stagnation. And I think that's good. I value that a lot about myself.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to stop learning and stop experiencing new things. There's definitely, I think there's definitely like I definitely think it's not great to want to experience everything, because then sort of the opposite happens, and you get too lost in the fact that you're trying too much and you're not actually. There's definitely like a certain number. I don't know what that number is, but there's a certain number of things that you can experience in your life, and you can, some people, and it also really matters on your environment. If you grew up as a carpenter and your father's a carpenter and you have a workshop in your house, and then that's all you did, and that made you really happy, and you haven't really met too much other stuff, that's fine. Yeah. But then that hasn't been my life. I've had, like I was saying, so many different influences, and I take liking in so many different things. And actually, one of the reasons why I started this podcast is like the bio on my Spotify. I think I wrote it, and it's something like I have one too many interests to be able to dive in. Yeah. To dive in myself.
Yeah.
So like,
I read that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess the real KOKO is sort of like a chameleon that can sort of dive into different situations. I don't know. I don't know.
I think that point that you're making, I mean, first of all, the whole thing about egos, I've actually been thinking a lot about how I think most of my own progress has happened when I stepped aside of my ego, and most of my failures have come from my ego. And just the basically, and I think what the ego does, and this is something that I've been reading about a lot as well, there's a really cool law professor called Kimberly Crenshaw, and she had this kind of idea about like intersectionality and the fact that people, I mean, largely have kind of thought about like categories as, you know, like race, gender, whatnot, as like prefixed, preordained kind of things. And people really like to put things in certain categories. Whereas it's probably more conducive to conceptualize like people and their identities as kind of like, those categories can be really fuzzy and sometimes they can be non-existent, and we're constantly creating our identities as we go along. And also, you know, we're created through the way that other people see us, and we feed back from other people and all of this. And I guess kind of going against what I asked you, I mean, who's the real KOKO? I guess it, for me, I've been learning that it's probably more healthy for myself and probably for a lot of other people, like you're saying, to conceptualize identity as more just like, you can be multiple things at once. You can be, like you're saying, you have too many interests. I feel like the same. I have so many interests, and I think a lot of people that I know have so many interests, and there's a lot of unhappiness that stems from trying to do one thing, focusing on that one thing, and identifying only with that one thing and being like, this is who I am. Because that's like, that comes from the ego, being like, this is who I am. I don't do this because I am this. And I think for me, that was another thing. Like, for example, now getting back into psychology, I feel like I ignored a whole part of my identity of what I'm interested in and everything. And it kind of did make me a bit unhappy because I feel like I was ignoring a part of myself. So I think, yeah, there's something to be said about just getting out of the way of, you know, your own ego.
Yeah.
And just accepting the fact that you can be multiple things and you don't need to identify yourself as
just one thing.
Just one thing.
Because also it can become like a self-fulfilling prophecy where say you do music and then other people around you are like, oh my god, it's Isanna the musician.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you're like, oh my god, I'm Isanna the musician, and that's what I do. And then that sort of like keeps going. And then that just becomes your identity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like, it's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, but I think it's just important to like notice it.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think, a lot of like, that's where a lot of self-esteem problems come from, I think, as well in people. It's just like ignoring whole ass parts of yourself and letting other people dictate for you who you are, which can be good in some cases. Like you said, like, it's not always a bad thing, but I think just being open-minded and allowing yourself to be whoever you want to be in whatever context you want to be it in.
Yeah.
What color am I thinking of?
Green.
No.
Okay,
now I'm going to guess what color you're thinking of. Yellow.
Close.
Dang
Orange.
it. Well, you're always thinking of orange. Why is this? Is that your favorite color?
I think it was. I think now it's green.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like green.
You don't like green?
That's why I wasn't thinking of green.
Are you thinking of purple? Blue?
No.
Okay, I'm just going to keep going until like...
Okay, yeah, guess. I'm thinking of something.
Oh, a colour?
Yeah.
Going for the spectrum, the RGB spectrum. I'm feeling, brown.
No.
Fuck.
I was thinking turquoise. I would have accepted blue. But...
Sorry. I didn't live up to my...
He's not a psychic,
I'm
folks.
not psychic. Yeah, I'm not. Is that it? Any other questions?
I'm thinking. I guess I have one more question. Yeah. Do you think, kind of going off of what we were just talking about, do you see yourself in, like, let's say in 20 years? Do you see yourself as being like a videographer, or do you want to just go crazy and do everything, like try out a bunch of different careers, do a bunch of different things?
Oh yeah, definitely the latter.
Definitely the latter.
Like, I do like what I do in terms of videos, and it's kind of an amazing job because it's sort of like so like it's it's also great because you dive into so many other different people's lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it sort of works in that sense. And I think that's why I like it. I definitely want to dive into documentaries a bit more, because then I can really dive into other people's lives and tell like these intimate stories and just learn about whatever people are doing and learn from them about ways of life and whatever. I definitely don't just want to be... it's not like I don't want to be a filmmaker. I do. I really do want to make videos, films, and just create things. I do like making stuff, definitely. But I don't know. I'm open to see what the future holds. I've been exploring this idea where I'd like to do documentaries where it's sort of presenting it almost. So I'm sort of like in front of the camera. So like, as much as I like filming and stuff, like, and one of the reasons why I started this podcast was many reasons, but I sort of, I don't know, this idea of like...
I was just going to say, it's because you're an entertainer.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, like, I don't know if anyone has ever told you, but like, I feel like that's what you are. Like, that is a core aspect of who you are.
Yeah, I do like entertaining.
Genuinely,
yeah, I do like entertaining.
Yeah.
just things happen at gatherings and I entertain.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like working to... I used to be sort of obsessed about like making the parts about myself that are not so great really good. But actually, I don't know, it's more fun to explore your strengths and like really like let that side of you like really flourish. Because I don't know, like if you're not necessarily naturally good at something,
don't force it.
Like, don't force it. Like, it's definitely important to, like, you know, work through adversity and discomfort and, like, try things that don't necessarily think they're gonna work out. But it's, if not equally, even more important is to do the opposite, where it's, like, stuff that feels good, do more of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not talking about, like, stuff that, like, scrolling on Twitter because it feels good for a bit. But I'm talking about, like, stuff that really makes you feel good. And I think I know when I'm feeling good, when I feel at peace, you know, at peace with myself. That happens very rarely, but like I know if I do something good and I go to bed and I'm not like thinking about a million things and I'm at peace, I know that you know, I've had a good time with it. So it can be quite hard to sort of like introspectively look at yourself and or see what your strengths are, and that's a skill by itself. It took me a while to sort of, you know, like, and then this is all relatively speaking taking me a while because we're all super young still. But you know, taking me a while to sort of understand where my strengths are, and over the years I've decided, not decided, but I've realized that my strengths are within people, relationships, and as in not relationships as in like love relationships, but actual just like ships.
Yeah, ships, of course.
Just like speaking to people, you know, like I've always found it so easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to do more of that basically.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the reasons I'm doing this.
Looks like you're on the right path.
Apparently. As the tarot cards said.
That's what was in the cards. The final question.
Okay, yeah.
Do you think it's more likely that we're living in a simulation?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Or is it more likely that, as our old friend Dr. Seuss said,
what did he say?
Or rather theorized, we are who's living on a flower? Like we're like a speck of dust on a flower.
We're like a speck of dust on a flower.
And a giant elephant is gonna come hear us going, whoo.
Whoo. Are we just a speck of dust in the universe, or does it go deeper than that?
Yeah.
don't know.
I thought for sure you'd know this.
Yeah, I'd know this. Yeah, I know the answer to that one. Like, I think both are true.
Yeah.
I think both.
There it is.
Both are true because realistically, like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
every day we wake up in a society. What is going on with that?
Like I don't know. Also, this is why it's sometimes it's good to come out of your rhythm a bit and then look at the bigger picture. If you get stressed out and stuff, I do this, and if if I get stressed out about something, even if it's something really important, I sit back and I look up and look at the stars. And there's a Orion belt. There's like the little bear, the big bear, and I'll just like wave at them. And I'm like, man, it don't fucking matter. Like, obviously, like, deal with your problems, but like, it's important to remember that, like, I don't know. It's also a slippery slope because you don't wanna be in this state of mind that like nothing matters and like what it is, like, and I love that saying. I say it is what it is so much, but you don't want to become too like, because that can drive you genuinely insane. But I mean, fuck knows. I mean, we're getting to a scary stage of simulating life. So honestly, yeah, in our lifetime, we'll probably, I mean, with quantum computers and shit, who knows what, like, we'll be able to stimulate realities. And
I mean, listen, once I get my VR headset,
that one,
I will never leave my room.
You think that it's pretty great. I'm not gonna lie, but I actually haven't touched that in a while.
Really, that's big.
Well, just too busy doing other stuff, and also like
too busy doing podcasts.
Not even, but do you know what it is with the headset?
Yeah. Like
it's quite a special experience when you're doing it by yourself and stuff, and you're playing the game or you're interacting with someone. But like, you know how I was talking to you about commitment with like scrolling, and then like so this is the levels of commitment. The bottom level of commitment is like TikTok, Instagram, real scrolling, because it doesn't feel like you're really committing to anything. It's only 5 seconds, but it's actually like you keep going.
Yeah.
But that sort of whatever state of like guilt I am, that feels sort of okay.
Yeah.
Until I sort of realize it's not okay.
Yeah.
The next level is obviously like watching series or something, like watching a film. I have to have like a certain level of like, I don't feel too guilty doing this.
Yeah.
And then as gaming, like on my computer, I need to feel good that I've earned the privilege to game.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
The privilege to game.
The privilege to game. I've done enough work and I eat my fruit, and my fruit is gaming. But the VR headset is top tier. Like, I need to have my shit together to play this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I feel this is such a commitment because you enter a different world. And it can be an escape, but I don't know. It's quite a commitment playing VR.
Yeah.
And if I feel like a sense of guilt, like I haven't done enough, which sadly, I'm still not at that stage where I feel like I've done enough all the time. So it's like a constant battle. But yeah, that's sort of like the end stage where I feel like I'm good. I put the headset on and I reward myself with like a 360 porn. I'm joking.
Wow, that's
like Half-Life Alex.
Yeah.
I have watched porn in it though.
Really?
It's crazy.
That must be quite an experience, honestly.
I've done it once. Haven't had necessarily like a particularly healthy relationship with porn in the past, but I sort of stopped. I've cancelled that part of my life in it. But I was like, I've got a fucking headset. I need to see this shit, and it was so overstimulating. Yeah, I was like, yo, this is. I've got to stay away. I need, because this, I can see how people this will drive people insane. I stay away from that side of it.
That's hilarious. I never would have even like considered that even a possibility, but there you go.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's very strange. Your mum's still listening.
she's still gonna be listening.
That's
to
fine.
this
That's fine. Yeah. We're
Hi,
adults. We
Mom.
can talk about whatever. But
she's calm though.
yeah, of course. Yeah. It's hilarious. Okay. How long have we been going? We've been going for, I don't even know, a long time.
We've been going for a while. I mean, like, the thing is, I could ask you endless questions, but the question is, when do you want to wrap it up?
Now is a good time, I think. I feel like we've had a great
covered
convo.
a lot.
We've covered a lot. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for
It's
having me.
been an absolute pleasure having you here.
This was so fun.
Yeah. Hopefully having you on at some point again.
Yeah.
In the
I
future.
would love to.
Yeah. Have a few months in between, but yeah, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Who's your next guest?
I don't know yet, actually. I was meant to have someone on Thursday, but then they cancelled. But I'm going to try and get someone on this week again.
Sweet.
Because we'll have quite a lot of time during December, so go for it.
Sick.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
To the 7 people that made it this far.
No, I swear, like, I think I wouldn't be surprised if your podcast blows up.